Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Drama on this Thursday with episodes of Under Arrest starring the very underrated Joe Desantis from 1949. Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator starring the wonderful and sadly reduced career of William Gargan from 1952. Glenn Ford in an episode of Suspense from 1947. Then some quarter-hour dramas, including The Strange Dr. Weird, Shandu the Magician, and Superman in the conclusion of the Lita the Leopard Woman story. That's all coming up on this Thursday, 6th day of February, 37th day of the year, 328 days till we get to 2026. In Paris on this date in 1778, the Treaty of Alliance and the Treaty of Amity and Commerce signed by the U.S. and France, signaling official recognition of the new republic. Massachusetts became the sixth state to ratify the Constitution on this date in 1788. In 1815, New Jersey granted the first American railroad charter to a John Stevens. In 1843, the first minstrel show in the U.S., the Virginia Minstrels, opened at the Bowery Amphitheater in New York City. In 1862, Ulysses S. Grant gave the U.S. its first victory of the Civil War by capturing Fort Henry, Tennessee, known as the Battle of Fort Henry. The 20th Amendment to the Constitution went into effect on this date in 1933, shortening the time from election to inauguration. In 1959, Jack Kilby of Texas Instruments filed the first patent for an integrated circuit, and that's what made the teeny tiny things you hold in your hand that some of you are listening to this podcast on, the phone, possible. And desktop computers. It would not be possible without an integrated circuit. At Cape Canaveral on this date in 1959, the first successful test firing of a Titan intercontinental ballistic missile accomplished. And then on this date in 1979, a vital thing in space. In 1971, on the Apollo 14 mission, Alan Shepard became the first person to hit a golf ball on the moon.
Well, Houston, while you're looking that up, you might recognize what I have in my hand is the handle for the contingency sample return. It just so happens to have a genuine 6-iron on the bottom of it. In my left hand, I have a little white pellet that's familiar to millions of Americans. Drop it down. Unfortunately, the suit is so stiff I can't do this with two hands, but I'm going to try a little sand trap shot here. And he got more dirt than ball that time. Got more dirt than ball. Here we go again.
That looked like a slice to me, Al.
There we go. Raise the die. One more. Miles and miles and miles.
No truth to the rumor that Elon Musk is going to team with LIV Golf to put in the first golf course on the moon. That to Alan Shepard on this date during the Apollo 14 mission in 1971. Washington National Airport renamed Ronald Reagan National Airport on this date in 1998. And in 1999, Hillary Clinton became the first lady to run for and be elected to the Senate.
New York defined what was possible in the 20th century, and New York can make what seems impossible today possible in the 21st century, and that's why I want to be your senator from New York. Thank you all very much.
And it was on this date back in 2018. Speaking of moon travel, Elon Musk's SpaceX Falcon Heavy, a super heavy launch vehicle, made its maiden flight. No, not to the moon, just into space. Alrighty, passing away on this date in history, a great tennis player, Arthur Ashe.
Arthur Ashe was just plain better than most of us.
Former UN ambassador and also the mayor of Atlanta, Andrew Young, talking about Arthur Ashe, who passed away on this date in 1993. Very, very sad story. Also passing away on this date, a man who brought us lots of music. We still remember him today, Vincent Guaraldi. Did all the music for the Charlie Browns. And another wonderful musician, composer, Hugo Montenegro. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Danny Thomas, who left his wonderful St. Jude's Medical operation behind. Also actor Joseph Cotton. The man who created Captain America, the Fantastic Four, and the Hulk, Jack Kirby, passing away on this date. Singer Falco, Beach Boys' Carl Wilson, actor James Whitmore, and the world's foremost authority, Professor Irwin Corey, a funny, funny man. Now, birthdays on this date of those who have left us include Babe Ruth.
Are 714 home runs the most you ever hit?
Well, that's quite a few, isn't it? Well, I tell you, in the old days, say back up to 1921 or 20, if your ball club needed one run, it was 3 men on base in the 9th inning, and for instance, I got up there and hit a home run, it didn't count for a home run, it only counted for one run driven in. So you make the score 2-1 or 3-2, something like that. Well, I hit quite a few like that.
Babe Ruth, born on this date in 1895. Also born on this date, the third vice president, Aaron Burr, the mistress of Adolf Hitler, Eva Braun, actor Thurl Ravenscroft, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch, Zsa Zsa Gabor, darling, British actor Patrick Macnee, actor Rip Torn, Bob Marley, the fine Jamaican singer, another great singer, Natalie Cole, and also born on this date, the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan.
This is Ronald Reagan speaking to you from Hollywood. You know me as a motion picture actor. But tonight I'm just a citizen, pretty concerned about the national election next month, and more than a little impatient with those promises the Republicans made before they got control of Congress a couple of years ago.
I can't help but think about how often, at moments of accomplishment and triumph, as well as crisis and heartbreak, we came together in this way. A president giving his accounting to those under our system of government to whom he is accountable. We've shared a great deal together. For me, it's been a special relationship. Believe me, Saturdays will never seem the same. I'll miss you.
If Ronald Reagan was still with us, could you imagine what these days would be like? Really interesting. President Ronald Reagan, born on this date in history.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
And from MASH, Mike Farrell, B.J. Honeycutt in that show, 86 years old today. News anchor Tom Brokaw is 85. Teen idol Fabian Forte, 82. She was Peggy Hill on King of the Hill. Kathy Najimy is 68. From The Parenthood, Robert Townsend is 68. Guns N' Roses lead man Axl Rose is 61. Rick Astley, who is never going to give you up, never going to let you down, 59 years old today. From Teen Wolf and Gotham, Crystal Reed is 40. From the Polar Express and 2.5 Men, Tinashe Kajwingi is 32. And from Stranger Things, Charlie Heaton is 31. Those just a few of the people who celebrate the 6th day of February as their birthday. If this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the 4 Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
We start off with a mutual program, Under Arrest. That's coming up first here on this dramatic Thursday edition of Classic Radio Theater.
Civil defense is common sense. Hi, this is Tony Bennett. Make sure you're prepared if a nuclear attack ever comes.
And we now prepare for an episode of Joe Desantis and Under Arrest from 76 years ago, February 6th, 1949.
Mutual presents Under Arrest.
Into your cells.
criminals behind bars. Under Arrest, the story of Police Captain Jim Scott's fight against crime.
Captain Scott.
Harry Gavin, Jim.
Yeah?
I'm at Madame Cherini's.
Great. Aren't you supposed to be on duty?
I am. I'm sitting up with a corpse.
Has the corpse got a name?
Sure has. Jerome K. Wade.
Jerome K. Not the gun manufacturer.
That's right.
The fellow who used to be partners with Sam Carver?
On the button. He's been shot.
Who did it?
Sam Carver.
Oh, you're crazy. Sam Carver's been dead for 4 years.
Yeah, I know.
Now, look, Gavin. From what you tell me, an important man's been murdered. I don't like to joke about such things.
I'm not kidding. Madame Cherini's a medium. She swears Sam Carver did it.
A medium?
Yeah, one of those people who bring back the dead. Looks like she brought back Sam Carver. Cute, huh?
I didn't think it was cute. The Sam Carver case had been looked upon as a suicide. Carver was partners with Wade in the gun factory, and it was his job to inspect the guns before shipment. He passed a defective bunch, and they were shipped to the Army. Some of the boys at Okinawa got a rough deal when the guns didn't function as called for, and the incident created quite a scandal. Carver wrote a full confession, then blew his brains out in the library of his home. Only one thing didn't jibe. We never could locate the gun. Madame Cherini's place was located over the Red Parrot Bar and Grill. You had to pass through the bar to reach the back steps.
Hey, where do you think you're going?
Get my fortune told. I have a date with Madame Cherini.
Wise guy, huh? Well, if I were... Oh, excuse me. Didn't know you wore a badge.
That's okay. Which way is it?
Turn right through the door there, and it's one flight up at the head of the stairs.
Thanks.
Hello, Captain.
Oh, Larry. Where is it?
Right here. That third eye in the middle of his head is a bullet hole.
Thanks. You find a gun to go with it?
No, Jim, and I've been all over the room.
No gun?
That's right. Just like it was with his partner, Sam Carver. This is Madame Cherini.
Oh?
This is a terrible thing to happen, Captain. I've been practicing for 30 years, and I never had any trouble before.
It's always the first time.
Oh, believe me, Captain, I run a respectable place. Such a thing has never happened to me.
Nothing happened to you. Not yet. It happened to Wade. Were you here when he was shot?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
I was in my trance. Mr. Wade wanted to communicate with the spirit of his dead partner. We held a seance. I remember nothing. I just reached through to my control.
Control?
The spirit who makes my contacts for me, Kathy. Communication was established. The next thing I knew, I heard a shot. It penetrated the veil, and I came back to Earth once more. The room was pitch black except for a light behind me. I turned and saw him. Just as plain as I see you now. It was Sam Carver, a gun in his hand. Oh, it was a beautiful materialization. Beautiful.
Yes, no doubt. What happened then?
It vanished right into thin air. Of course, it couldn't stay once I was my conscious self.
Of course.
I turned on the light. The switch is right here under the table.
Oh?
Mr. Wade was exactly opposite me. He had a look on his face, a look that I'll never forget. His mouth was open as though he were about to say something. Then he toppled out of his chair, just as he is now.
You were conducting a seance?
Yes.
You need more than 2 people for a seance. Who else was here?
Mrs. Wade and Mrs. Carver.
Where are they now?
Mrs. Carver took Mrs. Wade home.
You mean Mrs. Wade saw her husband shot and she left just like that?
Oh, she was hysterical. She kept screaming about divine judgment, and our husband got what he deserved. Benny might be able to tell you more about it. He helped her out.
Benny?
The bartender downstairs. He came running up just as soon as he heard the shot. Do you want to talk to him?
Yeah. Yeah, go get him, Larry.
Check.
I think it might not be such a bad idea to question this Benny. While Gavin went to get the bartender, I took a look around the room. Nothing unusual about it. No secret trapdoors, sliding panels, nothing like that. There were heavy plush hangings, but they covered bare walls only. A low-hanging chandelier hung over the round table, and the light switch, as she said, was under the table. But you couldn't see any props, nothing to create contrived effects. Madame Cherini herself didn't look the part of the conventional medium, except for the fact that she was dressed completely in black and had a pair of the deepest, blackest eyes I've ever seen.
Here he is, Captain.
Hello, Benny.
Captain?
Madame Cherini tells me you rushed up to the room as soon as you heard the shot. Is that right?
Yep.
Why?
Why?
Weren't you afraid of getting shot yourself?
Oh, I see what you mean, Captain.
Well, no, frankly, I didn't think of that. Madame Cherini's a good friend of mine. I only thought she might be in trouble.
And you're not afraid of guns?
Not as much as most people, I guess. In a way, I'm kind of used to them.
Where did you get used to them?
Okinawa.
Okinawa?
Yeah, there was a war. Do you remember?
Yes, I remember, Benny. I also remember a certain ugly incident. Bad guns delivered to our boys in a certain company. Could be some of your buddies died on that account. Jerome K. Wade and Sam Carver manufactured those guns. I'm not saying Wade didn't deserve to die, Benny.
I ain't saying he didn't deserve it either. I think that... Hey, why look at me? I didn't do it.
There was nobody in the room but the women when you entered, and nobody could have passed you on the stairs. Maybe you didn't run into the room at all, Benny. Maybe you were here all the time.
Nuts, I was down at the bar waiting on my customers till I heard that shot.
Why couldn't it have...
Yes, exactly. Why couldn't it have been one of the women?
I don't think so. As I remember seances, you all hold hands around the table. Isn't that right, Madame Cherini?
That's right, Captain Scott.
And Wade held each of the women by the hand, and they in turn held the hands of Madame Cherini. Doesn't seem possible, unless all three women were in league to kill Wade. In that case, the other two could have released Madame Cherini, but that seems like too long a shot.
Yeah? Well, then maybe you can explain how I got to look like Sam Carver, huh? They all agree that it was the ghost of Sam Carver who killed Wade.
What do you mean, all?
Mrs. Carver, Mrs. Wade, and Madame Cherini here.
That's right, Captain. We all recognized him. There couldn't have been any doubt that it was Sam Carver.
Sam Carver's been dead for 4 years. Yet you're sure you recognized him. You must have known him well.
Very well. Sam Carver was interested in spiritualism. Mr. Wade always used to laugh at him.
Yet you claim it was Wade who asked for this seance. And it was here he was murdered. Now, who killed him?
Sam Carver.
Bunk. Dead men don't go around killing people.
In my profession, Captain, you find out that dead people are not quite as dead as they seem.
I got a funny feeling as I looked at the corpse. There was something in the expression. Kind of fixed smile. And the bullet hole Larry Gavin had described as a third eye. For a moment in the dim light, I could have sworn the dead man winked. But it's my job to catch live murderers, not ghosts. Jerome K. Wade was killed by a slug from a .32. Nothing ghostly about that. But as far as the gun was concerned, it might just as well have been ectoplasm. I warned Madame Cherini and Benny, the bartender, not to leave town. Lieutenant Gavin went to look up Mrs. Wade and get her story. Myself, I went to pay a call on Mrs. Sam Carver.
Captain Scott, I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting.
Quite all right, Mrs. Carver. Naturally, you're upset.
Naturally. First Sam, then poor Jerry. Would you care for a drink? I think I need one.
Thank you. I don't. She looked anything but upset. Mrs. Carver must have been quite a beauty in her day, and her day was not quite past. She moved like an animal with a lithe, sensuous grace. She smiled invitingly and sank down on the couch beside me, sipping her drink. Pity we have to meet always under these circumstances.
Isn't it? I won't pretend I'm exactly grief-stricken about Jerry Wade. He was just as responsible as my husband, even more so for that arms shipment. Yet poor Sam took all the blame.
What happened tonight? Exactly.
Probably just what you already heard. Mr. Wade invited me to attend this seance.
I thought Mr. Wade didn't believe in such things.
No, but he knew I did.
Oh?
Sam and I were always great believers in spiritualism, and especially in Madame Cherini.
Well, what was Wade's idea?
To convince me he had nothing to do with Sam's passing. I've always suspected something peculiar about my husband's death. I could never quite believe that Sam committed suicide, although it was I who found the body and the gun was right next to his hand.
That gun? What happened to it?
It simply disappeared.
Like the murderer disappeared tonight?
Murderer? I'm sorry. The truth is, Captain, I don't like my husband being called a murderer.
Your husband? Oh, you mean the ghost.
I saw it with my own eyes. So did the Wades and Madame Cherini. There couldn't have been any disguise.
Well, it was dark in the room.
There was a light around him. He was pale and his eyes were burning. He looked straight at Jerry Wade. The same gun was in his hands.
The same gun? How do you know?
Don't ask me how. I just knew.
Yes? Go on.
He looked straight at Wade, and I heard Wade say in a strange, broken voice, No, Sam, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to, honest. And then...
Yes?
My husband uttered one word, murderer, and fired. Madame Cherini awoke, and my husband disappeared.
With the gun?
Of course.
Now, look here, Mrs. Carver. That was no ghostly bullet which killed Jerry Wade. It was a real bullet like the one which killed your husband. By the way, who was present in this house the night your husband was shot?
Was shot? You don't think he killed himself then?
I'm not sure. In any case, he was shot. I'm asking you who was here.
Well, there were Mr. and Mrs. Wade, my son.
Your son?
John. He'd just come home from college. There was quite an argument between him and his father. It was on account of that scandal about the guns.
Where is he now?
Away at school at Yale.
Yes, go on. Anybody else?
Oh, yes, of course. There was Madame Cherini. She stayed to dinner. We were going to have a seance later.
Who was the last person who saw your husband alive?
Madame Cherini, I think. She had a talk with Sam in the library. Sam was very upset about the argument with John. Madame Cherini was his advisor.
You don't look like the mother of a grown son.
Thank you, Captain. Are all policemen so gallant?
I imagine they would be. With you.
Thank you again. Are you sure you don't care for a drink?
Quite sure.
Too bad, Captain. We could both do with a bit of relaxation.
It was late when I got to my office next morning. Larry Gavin had seen Mrs. Wade, and a story checked with those of Madame Cherini, Benny, and Mrs. Carver in every particular, even to the exact words used by her husband and the ghosts. Lieutenant Gavin had his own theory about the crime, and I wasn't too sure he was wrong.
Jim, I say it's all hypnosis. This medium sets up the mood, gets them all into a frame of mind where they're ready to believe anything. She shot Wade. It was dark in that room. How else could anybody plug him right in the middle of the forehead without being close up and knowing exactly where he was sitting?
Well, maybe an ordinary guy couldn't, but a ghost could.
Now, don't tell me you're going soft in the head, too.
Well, all the stories check. They couldn't all have been in on a plot to kill Jerry Wade.
I don't say they were. I'm saying the old gal hypnotized him. It adds up.
Maybe. I'd like to check with ballistics first. Captain Scott, get me the lab.
Yes, sir. Yes?
Captain Scott, did you check the Wade bullet against the bullet in the Carver file?
Yes, I did, Captain.
Well?
It's from the same gun, Captain. There's no doubt about it.
Are you sure it's from the same gun?
Positive.
Thanks.
Well, that clinches it. It must be the medium.
Why?
Wasn't she there the night Carver was shot?
Right.
Aren't all these mediums pretty good sleight-of-hand artists?
Right.
Wouldn't it have been a simple matter for a good magician to divert attention and pick up the gun in Carver's hand?
Right.
And wouldn't she use the same gun to kill Wade?
Wrong.
Why not?
Why should she plan a murder in her own home, where everything points against her?
So she could blame it on a ghost.
What motive would she have in killing Wade?
He thought she was a phony. He was an enemy of Sam Carver's, one of her oldest friends.
Not enough. Nobody risks the chair for that.
Then what do you think? The ghost did it?
Maybe.
Oh, have you gone nuts?
Maybe. Get me the Red Parrot Bar and Grill.
What are you going to do?
Make an appointment with the ghost.
Oh.
Hello?
Benny, Captain Scott.
Oh, yeah, Captain.
Could you call upstairs and bring Madame Cherini to the phone?
Don't have to call her, Captain. She's right here.
Oh, well, you know, she's right there.
Madam Cherini, this call is for you. Take it here.
Yes, Captain Scott?
Madame Cherini, you claim you brought back the spirit of Sam Carver last night. Materialized, I think, is the word you used.
Yes, Captain.
Then, could you materialize this spirit again for me?
I don't think so. Why should you want me to do that?
I'd like to remind you, Madame Cherini, this ghost is wanted for murder.
Oh, nonsense, Captain. You can't electrocute a ghost.
We can try.
I won't do it.
Madame Cherini, I'm afraid you don't realize your position. If you're a faker, then the ghost killer is something cooked up by you, and you're under suspicion of murder. If you're on the level, it's up to you to prove it by producing the ghost.
Spirit materializations are not easy. I may not be successful,
Well, that would be too bad for you.
The atmosphere has to be propitious.
What's wrong with the atmosphere?
There's too many policemen. They're all over the place. Spirits are allergic to policemen.
Well, send them away.
I can't rely upon you for that.
You've got my word.
All right, then.
When?
Tonight. Tomorrow morning, rather. Say about 3 a.m.
Why so late?
I want the circumstances to be favorable. I don't want any noise from downstairs. At 3 a.m., the bar will be closed.
Okay, you've got a deal.
One more thing.
What is it?
We'll need at least 2 others, sympathetic spirits. I think I can get Mrs. Carver.
Fine. How about Mrs. Wade?
Oh, I'm afraid she's too upset. I have it. We'll use Benny.
The bartender? Is he sympathetic with spirits?
You ought to be. Dishes enough of them out.
Shut up.
What was that?
I'm sorry, Madam Cherini. I wasn't talking to you. Okay, it's a date, 3 a.m.
Another thing. You must purify your mind.
Oh? Well, how do I do that?
Go into seclusion.
Seclusion?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Larry, who have you got trailing Madam Cherini?
Hennessy.
Where is he now?
Across the street in a cigar store at Maple and Clark.
Phone him. Tell him not to lose sight of Madam Cherini for a minute. It's urgent.
Okay. Where are you going?
Into seclusion. You heard what Madam Cherini said.
Where can I reach you?
My room. Phone me if it's important. Hello?
Jim, Larry Gavin, and this is important.
Yes?
Hennessy's been telling Madame Cherini she's gone to Mrs. Carver's house.
Only natural. She's inviting her to the seance.
She's been in there with her for over an hour. If all she wanted was to invite her, she could have used the phone.
I see. Okay, I'll take care of it.
You going to the Carver house?
No, I'll wait for Madam Cherini at the bar in the room.
Is that the way to purify your mind?
It's my way. Did you call the boys off?
Yes, Captain. But do you think it's smart?
I'll let you know after tonight. All right, if anything comes up, I'll be at the bar.
Boy, I wish I were a captain.
Oh, good evening, Captain. What's your pleasure?
Anything with the original label? Madam Cherini told you about the seance?
Yeah.
Ever been to one of those things before?
Yeah, lots of times. I'll have to hold your hand tonight, Captain. You mind?
Oh, not so long as somebody holds your other hand.
Here it is, Captain.
Well, here's mud in your eye.
Not mud, Captain. Ectoplasm.
Captain Scott, I didn't expect to find you here.
Just checking up, Madam Cherini, making sure everything's all right for the seance. But, shouldn't you be resting yourself?
Well, even mediums can use a little fresh air.
That all you went out for? Fresh air?
And asked Mrs. Carver to attend.
Will she?
Yes.
Fine.
This is hardly the atmosphere for you before a seance. You should be alone with your thoughts.
I was just going, but just one question. Mrs. Carver told me you spoke to her husband shortly before his death.
Yes?
Did he sound to you like a man who was going to commit suicide?
No.
Yet he left a suicide note.
Not a suicide note, Captain Scott. A confession. There's a difference.
Suppose it weren't suicide. Have you any theory about what might have happened?
Well, this is only a supposition, mind you, but in the light of recent events...
Like the ghost of Sam Carver returning to shoot Jerry Wade?
Exactly. There was a big argument at the Carver house the night he was killed. His son, John, wanted both Wade and Carver to confess and take the consequences. Shortly afterward, both men retired to the library.
And what happened?
Well, I wasn't there. I can only suppose.
Yes?
Wade could have pretended to be convinced that it was best for them both to write full confessions.
Then what?
Once the confessions were written, Wade could have shot him and placed the gun near his hand. Then all Wade would have to do was sneak out through a side exit, taking his own confession with him and leaving Carver's. It would look to everyone as though Sam Carver had taken his own life in remorse.
And what could have happened to the gun?
Oh, Wade would have been afraid of his prints on the gun. He could have pocketed it later while no one was looking.
Or someone else could have picked it up. Yourself, for instance.
What do you mean?
Skip it. Did you tell Wade about your theory?
I did make certain suggestions.
Enough to convince the unbelieving Wade to attend a seance? Now, this is only a theory, mind you, Madam Cherini, but I'm going to be as generous with you as you are with me. Suppose you were the one who lifted the gun. Suppose you weren't an authentic medium, and suppose you wanted to frighten Wade into a confession of guilt. A confession only you would be able to force.
Why should I want to do that?
It's an ugly word, Madame Cherini. Blackmail.
Well, there's an uglier word, Captain Scott. Murder. If such was my intention, why should I kill the goose that lays the golden eggs?
Well, it's only a theory, Madame Cherini. I was only supposing you were a fake. You are an authentic medium, aren't you?
Of course, Captain. But you'll find that out tonight. Won't you?
I hope to find out a lot of things tonight. It was uncanny. I now understood the purpose of the curtains on the walls and the dark dress worn by the medium. It was to absorb even the faintest suggestion of light. Try as I would, my eyes could not penetrate the darkness. I sat directly opposite Madame Cherini. Mrs. Carver held my left hand, and I could feel her knee brush mine under the table. Benny held my right hand. The medium held theirs. The circle made a chain of communication that was almost electrical. Through the hands of those next to me, I could feel the medium stiffen as she went into a trance. She began to moan, and then called upon her control, the spirit who was a guide in the other world.
Oh. Kathy. Kathy. Are you there? Kathy. Kathy, answer me. 2 raps if you can come through. 3 if there is interference. Do you hear me? Good. Are the channels clear tonight? 2 raps, yes. 3, no. I will speak no more. Mrs. Carver will ask you questions, and you will answer her through me. Is that clear?
Kathy? Can you hear me? Is the spirit of my husband with you? Can you make him materialize? Kathy, can you hear me? Yes. Can you make my husband appear?
Mrs. Carver's hand gripped mine tightly, and I felt the bartender's hand stiffen. I strained my ears, anxious to catch the slightest sound. I thought I heard the creaking of the hall door, but it might have been the wind. We sat tense, holding our breaths.
Kathy!
I couldn't believe my eyes. Slowly, a circle of light began to form at the other end of the room. A man's head and shoulders were framed in the light as though suspended in midair. The face was supernaturally pale, the eyes dark and glowing.
Sam! Sam! Captain Scott is here. He's a policeman. Show him what you did last night.
From nowhere, a hand appeared, a hand with a gun. The figure uttered one word. Murderer. I heard a click. I crashed to the floor, sweeping Mrs. Carver down with me. There was a flash, and the shot reverberated through the room like a thunderbolt. Under cover of the darkness, I lunged toward the figure with the gun. He seemed to be running toward the fire escape window. There was a crash as the window broke. I pulled my gun and started after him. Too late, I realized I'd been tricked. The so-called Spectre had thrown something through the window, probably the gun, and then made for the hall door leading to the stairs. I heard him go running down the stairs.
Madame Cherini!
Madame Cherini, put on the lights.
What is it? What's happened?
Put on the lights. The switch. Under the table. Mrs. Carver found the switch. For a moment, I could not get used to the glare. When I was able to focus my eyes, I saw Madame Cherini on the floor.
She's dead.
The hole was in back of the head this time. Ghost or no ghost, our murderer was a dead shot. And then I noticed Benny was gone.
Down the stairs.
I was about to follow when I heard a noise in the hall. Somebody was coming up.
Okay, Chief. Here's your ghost.
John. Oh, John.
No doubt about it. The ghost was John Carver, Mrs. Carver's son. It explained the resemblance to Sam. The resemblance had fooled Mrs. Wade and trapped her husband into blurting out a confession. John Carver was dressed all in black. The inside of his black topcoat was smeared with phosphorescent paint from the waist up. In the darkness of the room, all he had to do was to open his coat slightly to get the ghostly glow we had all seen.
Nabbed him as he came charging outside. He almost got away in the dark. It's a good thing his coat was open.
Good thing you disobeyed my orders and was here to catch him. Well, what have you got to say for yourself, John?
It wasn't his fault. He didn't know what he was doing.
No, it's all right, Mother. Yes. I killed Wade. He deserved to die.
And the medium?
Madame Cherini started the whole thing. She knew I never believed my father committed suicide. She came to me with the plan for trapping Wade into a confession. Got me to play the ghost.
Was Madame Cherini who gave you the gun?
Yes, she had smeared it with some of that shiny paint to scare Wade. That was my idea, too, at first. But when I heard Wade admitting his guilt, practically confessing he murdered my father, something snapped inside of me. I pulled the trigger. I'm a good shot.
We know that much.
I hid behind the curtain. When Benny took Mother and Mrs. Wade down, I stole after them. The bar was crowded. All eyes were on Mrs. Wade, who was hysterical. As they left through the front door, I slipped in, mixed with the crowd, and made my getaway.
Why did you kill Madame Cherini?
She came to the house. She was furious because I'd shot Wade. Said something about killing the goose who laid the golden eggs. It was evidently her intention to blackmail him. Wade was dead, so she chose to blackmail me instead through Mother.
John. John, why did you?
My mother had nothing to do with all this. I couldn't stand by and see that woman tortured.
I know. And I'm not saying I don't understand, son. But no man is big enough to take the law into his own hands. Ready to go, Larry?
All set, Jim.
Take your prisoner.
Under arrest.
Into your cells. All prisoners present and accounted for.
You have just heard Under Arrest, presented by Mutual, a new series featuring Joe Desantis as Police Captain Jim Scott. Under Arrest is directed by Martin Magner. Today's drama was written by Norman Lessing. Original music is composed and played by Milton Kay. Madame Cherini was played by Virginia Payne, Mrs. Carver by Linda Watkins, John Carver by Leon Janney, Lieutenant Gavin by Carl Eastman, and Benny by Annie Donnelly. All names of persons used in Under Arrest are fictitious. Any resemblance to names of actual persons, living or dead, is coincidental. Broadcast engineer, Cy Paget. Sound effects, Ronnie Harper and Walt Shaver. Your announcer is Jack Curtis. This program came from New York. Straight Arrow, the thrilling story of an Indian's adventures on the Western Ranges, becomes a top Mutual feature tomorrow and every Monday evening. You can enjoy Straight Arrow, and then stay tuned for intriguing mystery with the famous Sherlock Holmes, another Monday night highlight on the world's largest network. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
And from 76 years ago, February 6, 1949, Under Arrest here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Up next, William Gargan as Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator.
Civil defense is common sense. This is Fred McMurray. Home shelters can be built for as little as $100. Simple plans for building inexpensive home shelters are available free from your civil defense office. Ask for a copy of the Family Fallout Shelter booklet.
And you can easily get a copy of that by going to the link in the show notes. So there you go. Or go to classicradio.stream, and you can find it there. I have told the William Gargan story in the past about how he had a successful run as Martin Caine, private detective, and then Barrie Gargan, or Martin Caine, private eye, and then Barrie Gargan, confidential investigator. And in 1960, he was going to be in a play called The Best Man on Broadway. He was to play a dying ex-president. Laryngitis forced him out of it. Got tests on his throat cancer. They had to remove his larynx. And thanks to so many of his friends, Bing Crosby, Dennis Day, Phil Harris, Alice Faye, helped him from being depressed. And he worked through it. Worked with the American Cancer Society. And he mastered speech to the point that he had regained most of his speaking ability. And he formed a production company. So he still remained in Hollywood. But that was very, very sad. Then he suffered a heart attack in 1979. He passed away not long after, at the age of 73. While it was young, he had a wonderful life, but his acting career cut dramatically short. Here's William Gargan, Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator, 73 years ago, February 6, 1952.
William Gargan stars as Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator.
There's an old school motto with a modern twist, folks. An empty barrel makes a fine casket.
The National Broadcasting Company presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. Manhattan Island's my beat. From Battery Place uptown to Spite and Divo. I've got my footprints on every inch of sidewalk, a memory in every mile. Get used to a beat and it's like home to you. You're an island native, and only a pretty fancy fee can drag you even across the river to Brooklyn or 3 other boroughs. To drag you out of town needs a major earthquake or an act of Congress. So how come I find myself 40 miles from Broadway in an incorporated village called Seneca on the trail of a claw murderer? A nice little gent with side whiskers like Abraham Lincoln coaxed me into it. Town Supervisor Samuel, as he called himself. His pitch went something like this.
I came straight to you from Lieutenant Trav Rogers of your Metropolitan Police, Mr. Craig.
Yeah, Lieutenant Rogers phoned me you just left his office. No dice, old man. Seneca's off my beat.
But it's a situation of desperate emergency.
What's the population of your village, Samuel?
300.
A killer can't lose himself in that small a crowd.
But
order every townsman to line up in the public square, then go up and down the line. When you see a wild gleam, nab him.
A wild gleam?
The guy you're looking for is a lunatic, first class. The claw used in the killing shows that. One nut in the neighborly crowd, your sheriff can't be that helpless.
He is. Berkey's only honorary sheriff. His business is farm tools and tractors.
Who's your regular sheriff?
We have nobody. Crime in Seneca's a rare thing. Don't even have a jail.
Pass the hat and build yourself one. Crime's here to stay, people say.
The board of supervisors empowered me to supersede Berkey, to contract outside help. Someone experienced in homicide. You were highly recommended.
By Trav Rogers. The lieutenant's having his joke.
Please, Mr. Craig.
You're a nice town supervisor, and you look like a tintype of an old favorite uncle of mine. I'd like to help you, but no amount of pleading. No power on earth. Not 50 claw killings can entice me 40 miles from New York. In Seneca, doctor, flanked by Samuels and the sometime sheriff, I got a look at the corpse. The morgue was the back room of a taxpayer divided into a grain, oats, and seed shop and mortuary parlor.
This was Dr. Tyler, Mr. Craig.
Doctor, huh?
Horse doctor.
Oh, sad day for Dobbin. Pretty thorough job of annihilation.
Shocking crime.
The claw marks on the skull were made by a garden tool, looks like.
Yeah.
Did Doc Tyler have any enemies? Oh, let the sheriff answer, Samuels.
Why, no. Not to my knowledge, he didn't. Doc Tyler was a pillar in the community, a fine, respected man.
Save the eulogy for the funeral services, huh? Theft, then. Was anything stolen?
No, I'll have to say no to that. All Tyler had was accounts receivable. Bills owing him for his doctoring work.
You went over his property, then?
I did. The robbery was my notion, too, at first. I ordered an inventory of everything Tyler owned, right down to the horse bills.
And nothing was missing?
Nothing of any account, no. Except for old Baldy, everything was right where it belonged.
Except for old Baldy, you say?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Old Baldy's an old iron paperweight, the American Eagle. Doc Tyler always had it on his desk on top of a pile of papers.
And old Baldy was missing?
Yes, we couldn't find hide nor hair of it. Well, either somebody borrowed it and planned to keep it now that Tyler's gone, or Tyler threw it out.
Or the murderer clawed Tyler to get it.
Oh, now, why would anybody want to commit murder for a worthless old paperweight?
Can't say, but that's why I'm in this whistle stop, to find out why.
And that brings us down to cases. You and me.
Come again?
Your being here. Samuels brought you out against me.
Against you?
No, Sheriff.
Shut up, Samuels. This is between me and Craig. Against me, I said, Craig.
Oh, I get it. Your pride's hurt, huh, Sheriff?
When you've jackassed around a while and Samuels admits to being the finicky fool he is, I'm marching you to the railroad station.
With a brass band and local school mom doubling as drum majorette. A big goodbye to a conquering hero, Sheriff, because my parting gift to Seneca is your claw murderer in person. Want to bet? I found overnight accommodations at a Miss Pringle's split seconds before a storm broke. Miss Pringle was a spinster who looked it, and a fluffy white poodle who looked as if he was eating himself into his grave to escape Miss Pringle.
This is Fluff, Mr. Craig.
Fluff, huh? Does he bark?
Seldom. Fluff has chronic laryngitis.
Oh.
Dr. Tyler, peace to him, was treating Fluff.
Sad about Dr. Tyler.
You're here to find the fiend?
I'm here to get a night's sleep.
Very well. You can have the attic room.
Why so high a climb?
But I'm not accustomed to taking male lodgers.
Enough said. Blankets, towels, is everything there?
Oh, yes, the room is ready.
And a wall outlet so I can plug in and shave?
No, the electric wires don't extend to the attic.
Oh.
There's a kerosene lamp. Now, if you go to your room...
You're pushing me, Miss Pringle.
But I'm not accustomed to men in my parlor.
Enough said. I'll see you in my dreams.
Oh, my.
Good night, Miss Pringle. There were things I wasn't accustomed to, like attics, like figuring out how to light kerosene lamps, or like having the roof suddenly cave in on my head. I went down from a sneak blow. A club, the weapon felt like. I went down, but not out. I could see through a red haze like a film of blood, and I could hear glass breaking somewhere in the room. I rolled on the floor, not to be a sitting duck for a second blow. But no second blow came. Just quiet and the rain outside. The rain blowing in from an open window. The window my sneak opponent had used getting in and out. I went out the window after him. Outside, just at the edge of Miss Pringle's driveway, I ran into a reasonable facsimile of King Kong. A guy who looked as if he should be swinging from trees. sitting behind the wheel of an open convertible. It's top down, working the car starter and getting nowhere. Having trouble, friend?
It's slow. Don't want to go.
The wires are wet.
I'm driving good, and then it stops.
Your wires are wet.
I'm driving good, and then it stops, and then it won't go.
You're getting all tangled up in your IQ, friend. Doesn't the top go up?
Yeah, easy. This button here, you push it.
So push it.
No.
You've got a medium-sized lake around you. Floodwaters rising from the floorboard.
I'm not pushing no button. I like it like this.
How did you happen to stall here?
I told you I'm driving good.
Let it stop so that it won't go.
You making fun of me?
No. Did we meet a while ago?
Huh? Where?
In Miss Pringle's attic.
No. I'm driving, so how could it be?
How could it be? Parked here the last 5 minutes. Did you see anybody in a hurry to quit the general neighborhood of Miss Pringle's?
No. I seen nobody.
You're sure?
Are you trying to mix me up?
Nature got to you first. Just for future reference, what name do you answer to?
Harmony.
Harmony?
Yeah. You like it?
Back in the attic with the kerosene lamp lit and Miss Pringle in a trembling spasm, I took stock of the room.
Oh, what you've told me, Mr. Craig, it's unbelievable.
Believe it. I wasn't born with this rhinoceros egg on my head.
But what purpose
I'm checking to see. This picture on the floor, where was it hanging originally? The kerosene lamp's throwing so many shadows I can't see the nail hole.
Why, it hung there over the highboy. The glass broke?
Yeah, it needs a new glass. A ship's print, huh?
Yes, the Princess Ida, an old whaling vessel.
The picture have any special meaning?
Special meaning?
A value, an heirloom or something?
Why, no value. I only paid $1 for... Oh, wait. Yes, come to think of it, I was offered a good price for it.
How good a price?
$100, if I recollect.
For $1 print? Who made the offer?
The young Mr. Stanley, the one with the new antique shop out on North Rugby.
Why didn't you sell the picture to him?
Well, I'm not sure. For spite, I guess.
Spite?
Well, the young man was too persistent and bad-mannered. Calling me on the telephone and then tracking his muddy boots on my parlor rugs. But I don't understand why these questions.
Somebody was up here to steal the picture. I got in the way and was struck down.
But nobody stole the Princess Ida.
It was dropped in the commotion and the getaway. I heard breaking glass while rolling on the floor.
Oh, you're trying to frighten me.
Just enough to make you twice the cautious miss you already are. No men in your parlor. There's one joker abroad who might not respect that rule.
Oh, you're not alluding to the claw murderer.
Bolt your door and sleep with one eye open.
Oh, my...
I've just found you, beautiful, and I don't want to lose you.
Mr. Craig.
Yes, Miss Pringle.
There's a fine room on the first floor right next to mine.
Oh, no thanks. I'm getting to like the attic.
There's electricity and a wall outlet you can shave.
Oh, really kind of you. But I'm looking forward to roughing it. It'll toughen me up.
Mr. Craig, I insist you move to the room downstairs next to mine.
Oh, this creeping infatuation for me. Fight it, Miss Pringle, to your last drop of blood. We could get to be the talk of Seneca.
I don't care, Mr. Craig. I'm frightened.
In the morning, I took breakfast with Town Supervisor Samuels. Breakfast and information.
I'm sorry Sheriff Berkey made you unwelcome.
Berkey's sensitive to competition.
I'm sorry about your injury.
My injury?
You were attacked and beaten last night.
How could you know?
Miss Pringle had me on the telephone in the middle of the night.
Oh. I want to know about a couple of your townspeople.
Eh?
First, a bright chap who calls himself Harmony.
Harmony? Now, what reason could you...
Never mind. I'm asking the questions. Tell me about him.
Harmony's Big Toby Keller. Hires out for odd jobs. Spring plowing, window washing, garage work.
How about dirty work?
No. Craig, you're wrong about Harmony. I'd take an oath. His mind isn't the best, but we know him to be good-natured, honest.
Mm-hmm. What about a young Mr. Stanley?
Fred Stanley? He's a newcomer to Seneca.
What brought him here?
A lawyer got him to come in the first place. From Chicago, I think. Yeah, Chicago. Fred Stanley came thinking he was a missing heir. Claimed his grandfather's fortune.
But there was no fortune.
Only an old house just this side of the Seneca line, not worth the taxes on it.
Why was there any idea of a fortune at all?
And the grandfather, old Mitchell Stanley, was said to be a rich miser who put no trust in banks. When Mitch Stanley died, there wasn't a penny. They had to auction off his furniture to pay for his funeral.
But young Stanley stayed on in Seneca.
Yeah, opened an antique shop in the old Stanley house.
Can he make out in a one-horse town like this?
He has business signs posted on the highways, hoping to get the tourist trade. What's your interest in Fred Stanley?
He tried to buy a ship's print, the Princess Ida, from a girlfriend of mine, Miss Pringle. Stanley offered $100 for a picture worth $1. A liberal offer like that...
Craig!
No, don't blow your gasket. It's only a parcel delivery through your closed window. Did you order this?
What is it?
A claw. A garden tool like the one used on Doc Tyler. And a note with it. It's addressed to me, Barrie Craig. Get out of Seneca by 10 this morning or never.
Get out of Seneca by 10?
9. I've got an hour of grace.
Or never. Craig, it's a threat against your life.
I'll be planted in the country. A city fellow like me.
The handwriting.
No handwriting. The note was put together with newsprint. Can I borrow your car?
Yeah, of course.
Stanley's antique shop is on North Rugby Road, just this side of the Seneca line, you said.
It's a 3-mile drive, up the incline to Widow's Ridge, then left a quarter-mile... Craig, be careful. Please, I don't want your murder on my conscience.
Okay, I'll stay alive, but only for your sake, mind you. Staying alive is a deal that sometimes needs the cooperation of unknown parties, in my racket anyhow. Climbing the steep incline to Widow's Ridge. Climbing maybe 300 feet into morning mists as thick as pea soup. I knew I wasn't going to get that kind of cooperation. A rifle shot that blew a tire into confetti. Crash off the incline had to come. Funny distortions in your eye when you first come to and start taking inventory to see if you're alive. A half-frozen robin who didn't have the sense to fly south for the winter. He sat on the side of the hill 10 feet from where I lay, staring solemnly at me and chirping prayers for my safety. Oh, when I started getting to my feet, the robin flew away. The inventory added up. I was all there in one piece, with a few dents that couldn't hurt forever. Samuel's car was down at the foot of the incline, topsy-turvy, like it was playing dead dog. I'd been thrown clear of the wreck. Half my fee into the poor box. I took an oath on that as I started for Rugby Road on foot. Fred Stanley gave me the expected answer.
Just what do you find so unusual about my interest in buying old pictures, Mr. Craig?
$100 for a $1 picture doesn't make sense.
And why must it make sense?
It's a cold, practical world, chum. People generally don't go haywire with money. They conserve it.
Now, look, Craig, I collect Americana. Whatever strikes my fancy, I buy. The cost is secondary.
But you're in business to buy cheap and sell at a profit.
Technically, yes, but it doesn't work out that way. I love buying and I hate selling. A profit is rare.
That gets expensive. Where does the money come from?
That's none of your business, Craig. Now, if you don't mind, I'll terminate this interview.
I'm in no hurry.
Now, look here, Craig.
And I'm in no mood for the polite, formal approach, Stanley. Or the kind of weasel talk you've been giving me. Or being terminated.
Are you insane?
I walked away from my own murder 20 minutes ago. I came to this whistle stop against my will to do a big, good deed. And go home. I don't intend to settle here for keeps.
But what has that got to do...
You lied to me. A fancy, eccentric pose that's as phony as a ham board of Acton Shamokin. The ship print signifies something more than just another antique. No polite, formal approach, Stanley. I'm going to pound the truth out of him.
Crazy, let me go.
Tell me about the Princess Ida ship, Prince.
Let go. Harmony, help.
Harmony, huh? Now we're making headway. So King Kong's hired out to you.
Harmony, help.
I want you to let Stanley go.
Strapping ape like you, Harmony, you don't need a gun to take charge.
I want you to let Stanley go.
Sure, I'll let Stanley go. I was only fixing his tie.
Oh, Craig, you had no right to manhandle me. No right.
It paid off. I got to find out who was providing Harmony with his raw meat.
Harmony's with me on day hire to do general cleaning and polishing, scrape down old furniture.
Plus prowl in attics, plus distribute garden tools shaped like claws all over town, plus take rifle shots at passing cars.
You're out of your mind. You assaulted me and Harmony rescued me. Now get out of here.
Sure. But I'll be back. I'll be back, Stanley. The minute I tumble to your motive. Back at Miss Pringle's to wash up and change my suit for a whole one, I found her prized parlor rug a mess. Spots all over it. And the dog Fluff, suddenly cured of laryngitis and barking. Warm spots with a sticky feeling to the hand. Red like blood. Blood tracked in by Fluff from somewhere. I followed the tracks to Miss Pringle's bedroom. The blood was Miss Pringle's goodbye to spinsterhood. The garden tool shaped like a claw lay beside her on the floor like a third hand. Town Supervisor Samuels, aged 20 years and 20 seconds.
Craig, it's ghastly.
We'll skip the rhetoric. Miss Pringle was murdered by someone who made off with the Princess Ida.
You know that?
The picture is gone. I searched high and low.
The murder then clears Stanley and Harmony of any suspicion.
No.
But you saw them
Miss
both.
Pringle could have been murdered earlier, while I was here breakfasting with you. The Princess Ida and Old Baldy. 2 murders for 2 worthless relics.
You're convinced these relics motivated the atrocities?
It figures. The relics and somebody's lust to kill for its own sake. We're dealing with a nut to boot. Do the articles have any history?
History?
A story, some legend they figure in, say.
No. Nothing I know, Craig.
Some background that could tell us why 2 hunks of junk produced 2 killings.
I'm sorry.
Is there anybody in Seneca who could know? A village librarian or a local historian?
You could ask Will Briggs. Will used to be our recorder until the town board voted to abolish the job.
Will Briggs?
Will's crotchety, bad-tempered. I don't think he'll be disposed to help you, even if he could.
Even in a town crisis like this?
Will Briggs don't feel very civic about Seneca and its problems. Since we abolished his job for economy reasons, Will's been feuding. Suing in the courts for pension, making a rumpus at town hall meetings.
Great cooperative little town you've got here. Great job you roped me into. But Will Briggs pulled a switch on Samuel's characterization of him. Briggs fell all over himself cooperating.
For $20, Mr. Craig. I'm a man without funds.
$20, okay. You'll get it.
Black-hearted board of supervisors.
Did you dirt? Old Baldy and the Princess Ida. Scratch your memory.
Old Baldy and the Princess Ida. Funny now, you should be asking about them.
Why is it funny?
You're the second party that's come to me asking.
Who came first?
Old Mitchell Stanley's grandson. The one who settled himself into a shop here a spell ago. Young Fred Stanley.
What did you tell him?
What I'll tell you. If you wait. I have the record here. Yes, here it is. The sales sheet, my own writing, for that auction they held at Mitchell Stanley's once, to raise money for Berringham. I was craking for the auctioneer that day.
Get to it, please.
In my time. See? It says here we sold beds and tables and floor coverings. Down here it says Old Baldy. 50 cents. Sold to Dr. Tyler. Princess Ida. $1. Sold to Miss Pringle. And the snowman sold for 75 cents.
What's the snowman?
The design on a patchwork quilt it's named for.
Who bought it?
Let me see. Sold to Adam Samuels, it says. That's the town supervisor himself.
Where's your telephone, Briggs?
Telephone?
He ain't never invented it from its use to me. Keeping body and soul together as it is.
Briggs, don't bend my ears.
What's got your back up?
Samuels, your town supervisor's number 3 on the Claw murderers list.
If it's so, I say good riddance to the black-hearted.
Good riddance or bad. Someone else would have to judge Samuel's merits as a human on Earth. The garden tool, shaped as a claw, lay across the room where it had been thrown. A claw with bright red fingers. Fred Stanley resisted arrest to the last gasp. Harmony's last gasp, that is.
Craig, get out of here.
You're under arrest, Stanley.
You have no authority.
I've got a gun.
Harmony.
That 8th man comes through the door and he's dead.
Harmony.
You're asking your moronic stooge to commit suicide?
We'll see. Harmony.
One down, and Seneca's a better place for it.
You killed him.
He's only wounded. Where do you want it, Stanley?
I'll go with you.
Stanley put his confession on record after a little workout and a lot of sweating.
I found a diary that once belonged to my grandfather, Mitchell Stanley. A diary hidden behind the oak paneling over a fireplace. In the diary, 3 pieces of a map were mentioned.
A piece each hidden in Old Baldy, the Princess Ida, and the Snowman, huh?
Yes. A treasure map. The 3 pieces were to fit together into a treasure map. Through them, I'd find the wealth my grandfather was reputed to have. The wealth that never turned up when he died.
Insanity runs in the Stanley line, huh?
My grandfather's whole genius was a genius for hiding and hoarding. Hiding from the world in that awful house at the edge of the town line. Hoarding his gold. Fantastic thing like a child's treasure map was well in character with my grandfather. The shabby trick, too, was well in character with my grandfather.
What does that mean?
Well, it was all a grotesque joke. My grandfather's ghoulish sense of humor. I killed 3 people for a load of junk. There weren't any pieces of map in Old Baldy. Or the Princess Ida, or the Snowman.
That diary, Stanley. Give it to me.
Here, go hunt yourself up some treasure, Craig.
There was an anticlimax to the Stanley story. In a village beanery, with the sometime Sheriff Berkey trying to act apologetic and yet keep his dignity.
I suppose you'll be leaving now, Craig, eh?
Yeah, I can't wait to stand on Broadway and flip a cigarette into the gutter.
Well, I've been a jealous fool.
So would I be, in your shoes.
Oh, thanks. Will Briggs is coming over to see you. He says you owe him something.
Yeah. $20 for valuable services rendered.
Craig?
Briggs.
It's not out of order now.
To dun me for $20? Here you are.
I'll thank you when we go.
Stick around a minute, Briggs. I want to go over that feud you had with the town board.
I'm over it now.
Now, with the town board extinct, now that the murders of Doc Tyler, Miss Pringle, and Samuels have left Seneca without a town board.
I'm not one to pillory the dead.
But I'm one to pillory the living. Here's that alleged Mitchell Stanley diary that produced 3 murders.
Is it now?
And this is that auction sales sheet in your own handwriting, as you told me. Do I have to tell you that the handwriting in both is the same, even down to the green ink?
Craig, what are you getting at with Briggs?
That Briggs here forged the diary, Sheriff, and planted it where young Stanley would be sure to find it. That Stanley killed 3 people Briggs hated, while Briggs sat back and enjoyed the show. That young Stanley was only a dupe, a tool used for revenge. Make the arrest, Sheriff. And then flag down a train so I can scram out of this whistle stop. The sweet neighborliness around here is just killing me. Good night, folks. See you next week.
You have been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator. Tonight's story, Diary of Death, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story titled A Time to Kill, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
Next week, I have a wow of a time in the kindergarten when a whimsical corpse insists on playing hide and go seek. See you next week, folks.
Featured in the role of Samuels was Louis Van Ruten. Barrie Craig, starring William Gargan, was under the direction of Hyman Brown. This is Don Pardo speaking.
Oh, another legend there, Hyman Brown. We remember him from Inner Sanctum Mysteries and, of course, the CBS Radio Mystery Theater. And then Don Pardo, one of the great announcers of NBC for so many years. All that in this half-hour episode of Barrie Craig Confidential Investigator, 73 years ago, February 6, 1952, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Comedy coming up on our Wednesday program with episodes of People Are Funny, starring Art Linkletter, a show probably mostly remembered for its television run, and so many funny things. 75 years ago from 1950, Cinderella Girl from Omaha gets a job in the movies. Bob Hope, along with Fred Allen, as they try to break into TV as the TV Twins. That's from 1950. Willard Waterman as the Great Gildersleeve, which episode actually focuses on Peavy the Druggist. It's his 30th anniversary at the drugstore, and Richard LeGrand receives an award from the National Association of Retail Druggists. Go figure. George and Gracie with us, George Burns, Gracie Allen, from 1946, The Marriage Contest, as they're Hollywood's ideal married couple. We'll wrap it all up with an episode of Claudia. That's all coming up on our Wednesday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thursday, we're back to crime with episodes of Dragnet and Escape and The Chase and The Lives of Harry Lime. And then we wrap up the week with more crime with the FBI in Peace and War, Frontier Gentleman, Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Persons, Lights Out, and a new Superman episode. That's all coming up on our end of our week here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Alrighty. Did I say all that wrong? I think I did. Because, I'm a day off. Today is Thursday, and tomorrow's Friday, and then Saturday we have Dragnet, and Sunday we have the FBI in Peace and War. I get confused doing these shows in advance sometimes. What I'm not confused about is what's up next. Glenn Ford, in End of the Road, an episode of Suspense.
Listen and learn through civil defense. This is Johnny Cash. I'd like all of you to remember that America can withstand enemy attack if we support the emergency plans of our community and learn to help ourselves. Make sure you're prepared. Contact your local civil defense office today.
Now an episode of radio's outstanding theater of thrill, suspense, Glenn Ford, starring in an episode from 78 years ago, February 6, 1947, and this is The End of the Road.
Yes, Roma wines taste better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, Roma Wines present Suspense. Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Mr. Glenn Ford in End of the Road,
a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those better-tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine. For friendly entertaining, for delightful dining. Yes, right now, a glassful would be very pleasant, as Roma Wines bring you Glenn Ford in a remarkable tale of suspense.
For an automobile salesman, I have expensive habits. I mean dames. It had been dames as long as I could remember. It's strictly murder. Also, it gets you definitely no place. So this day I was turning over a new leaf. Nothing on my mind but business. Pencil in my hand, a sheet of figures on the desk, figuring out how to sell 1 million Excelsior 8s, make $1 billion. And someone tapped on the glass. I didn't even look up, just the busy executive. There it was again. Now I looked up.
Am I disturbing you?
Was she disturbing me? I got up in a trance and followed her across the showroom floor. It seemed as though I'd never seen anyone walk like that before in all my life.
This is my husband, Mr. Ganlon, Mr. Evans, the sales manager.
How do you do, sir? So she had a husband. He was a little sourpuss runt with a limpy leg, about twice her age, dressed like dough. The kind of dough that you could buy Excelsior 8s by the dozens. But I wasn't thinking about that now. I was thinking about her. I was thinking that the best way to guarantee seeing her again was to send them out that door in an Excelsior 8. So I pasted on the big salesman smile, went to town. Now, this is our customs line, Mr. Ganlon, distinctive in appearance. Now, you'll notice the three-tone color effect inside and out, upholstery to match, huh? And the broad, graceful, sweeping lines, a thing of beauty.
What's under the hood?
That's a question that I've been waiting for. Why, the world-famous Excelsior motor, Mr. Ganlon.
Gan, please, I've never driven in an Excelsior. Perhaps Mr. Evans would take us for a ride.
Oh, now look here, Sylvia.
Gan, please.
All right.
It won't take a minute. Yeah. Try that rear seat, Mr. Ganlon. You'll find it broad and luxurious. Now, Mrs. Ganlon, if you'd care to sit up here in front, you can see what it'll do.
Thank you.
Hey, you see how it handles, Mr. Ganlon? It's like a baby carriage, eh?
Well, keep your eyes on the road.
I turned the corner on 2 wheels, explained about the minimum sway being on account of the stabilizers. Well, I got a couple of grunts for that try. In the mirror, I saw he'd closed his eyes, so I turned to her. I still didn't know if this deal was going to be too easy, but one look at that look in those eyes, and I began to have a rough idea.
What do they call you?
Which they?
Your friends?
Speed. How about you?
Sylvia. Why the speed, Evans?
I like to get places.
I like to go places.
It's the same thing.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe we're both right.
Maybe, Speed. Maybe.
She'd asked for it, I'd have made that Excelsior turn somersaults. As it was, I showed her some driving tricks that'd make your hair stand on end. She loved them. Every once in a while, her eyes met mine and clung there just long enough. We knew, both of us, what I was selling, and it wasn't an Excelsior. Now, I can have the car ready for delivery first thing in the morning, Mr. Ganlon. What do you say?
Gan, please.
All right, Sylvia, all right.
Now, if you'll just sign the order.
I want it now, and I pay cash.
Oh, that's fine, Mr. Ganlon. That's just fine. I think you'll find the desk in my office the most convenient.
Is that your office there?
Yes, that's right, Mr. Ganlon. I'll collect all the necessary papers while you're making out the check.
All right.
Well, how did you like it?
Like what?
The car, for a start.
I love it.
You better drive in for a service check as soon as you can.
When?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Suppose you could manage to be alone?
Yes. I'll be alone.
She came in the next morning, She was alone. Well, from that day, we went places. We went there fast. But this was, well, it was different. She was different. Different from anything I'd ever known before. And in less than 2 weeks, I knew I didn't care about husbands or Excelsior 8s or even $1 million. All I cared about was her. And it was the same with her most of the time. That was what was tearing me up. The way it was other times, standoffish, scared. I was screwy. I didn't get it. Well, one day we were down at the beach, as usual. Lately, we were arguing about it.
Oh, please, Speed, don't.
Oh, what's the matter with Reno? We've got to do something about it someday, haven't we?
Yes, yes.
Well, that's what they got Reno for.
He'll come after me.
I'll let him come. We'll tear up his claim check.
Speed, I want to run along the beach. Come on.
Hey, 33, I'm too old for this stuff. Hey, wait a minute. Anyway, look.
Speed, you got to learn to relax.
I lost my roller skates.
I'll get you another pair.
I don't need skates.
Yes, you do.
That's all right. All right, Sylvia.
Oh.
Look, listen, Sylvia. Cut out the horseplay and quit stalling. I want a decision. One way or another now.
Oh, darling, now you're angry.
I am. It's a screwy deal. You love me. You want to leave him, but you won't.
Oh, but I will, darling. Speed, you see, there's so many things. They're all complicated and mixed up. First, there's my father.
What about him?
Well, you see, my father and Ganlon were mining partners in a little town called Phoebe, Arizona, and then there was a cave-in, and my father was killed. Oh, he was such a wonderful man. We were so terribly close.
Oh, that's tough, baby.
Sometimes it's almost as though he were alive. I see him, Speed, in dreams ever so often. I hear him speak. It was 10 years ago.
Oh, what's all this got to do with you and Ganlon?
Stop it! Stop torturing me! Can't you just leave me alone? Leave me alone!
Okay, if that's what you want.
Oh, no. Speed, don't.
Look, baby, I don't know about you, but I'm leaving town tonight. I can't take this any longer. I'm going back now, quit my job, and draw my $3 out of the bank and pack a bag. I'm leaving tonight, with you or without you.
Oh, no, Speed, you can't. You can't go without
Well,
me.
that's up to you, baby.
Oh, I'm afraid.
Of what?
I don't know.
Well, we'll worry about that later. What about it?
All right, I'll go.
I was to meet her at the usual place at 8 o'clock. I was on time, but even before I got there, I realized she'd never show up. I waited an hour, and then I crossed the street to the apartment where they lived, the 7th floor, 707. She must have been hanging around the door because it opened almost at once. She came out in the hall, closed it behind her. She was scared to death.
Speed, you've got to get away, right away.
Not without you, baby.
No, listen. Listen to me, Speed. I lied to you this afternoon.
No kidding.
I mean, about my father. He wasn't just killed in a cave-in. He was murdered. Ganlon murdered him.
So you married Ganlon to kind of show your appreciation.
Yes, I mean...
You don't make sense, baby. Come on, we're going inside.
No, Speed, no!
We're going to settle this once and for all now. In the living room, Ganlon was lying on the couch with his shoes off, his feet propped up. In a chair opposite was a young punk in a tan overcoat who looked like he took the wrong kind of nose drops when he needed courage. He let it be known fairly obvious that he had a gun in his pocket. Ganlon didn't even get up.
Well, Mr. Evans, this is an unexpected pleasure.
I'm afraid it's no pleasure, either way. I've come to tell you that your wife is leaving you with me.
Oh? Is she?
Yeah.
What about it, Sylvia? You don't seem to have entirely convinced her, Mr. Evans.
Listen, I don't know exactly what goes on here.
That's obvious.
But I do know that she's headed straight for a crack-up and that you're at the bottom of it, so she's leaving tonight. Go on, Sylvia, get your things.
All right.
Mr. Evans, I'm not sure you fully appreciate the penalties of stealing a man's wife.
There's divorce courts to handle that, besides other ways, if you're big enough.
Well, since you brought up the question of superior force. All right, Zeke, take him.
Okay, put him up. Hi, funny face.
Oh, gunsels with guns you have, huh?
Sometimes they come in handy, Mr. Evans.
Come on, start walking.
Any particular direction?
Yeah, outside.
All right, you win, Mr. Ganlon.
Take him out and kick him down the stairs, Zeke. Kick him.
The punk was plenty shaky, and he had the gun jammed right in my back. That's not smart if your guy knows a little judo. I made a quick half turn and fired, but not soon enough. I'd have broken his arm before he could try again. The gun scooted across the floor somewhere, and I was just thinking it's lucky they soundproof these fancy apartments. It started going off again. I whirled around to see Sylvia with a gun in her hand, stalking Ganlon like a tigress. He was cowering behind the furniture, and she was moving around, trying to get a clear shot at him. It took me one good leap to get over there and knock her out cold. There was a bowl of water, some flowers on the table. I threw the flowers on the floor, threw the water on Sylvia. She opened her eyes, looked around.
Oh, Speed. Why did you do it?
You're lucky, baby. When you get better at it, they're liable to call it murder.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Glenn Ford in End of the Road. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Ken Niles for Roma Wines. Whenever you want dinner to be outstanding, whenever the occasion calls for the magic touch that changes a meal into gracious, satisfying dining, enrich your table with a delicious Roma California wine. With tender, juicy steak or oven-browned roast, enjoy the tantalizing taste harmonies of red, robust Roma Burgundy. Or bring out the exquisite hidden flavors in fish or fowl with pale gold, delicate Roma Sauterne. And remember, all Roma wines taste better because Roma begins with choicest grapes. Then, with unmatched skill and resources, Roma guides these naturally finer grapes unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Later, Roma places this luscious grape treasure with Roma wines of years before, and finally, Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. With your dinner tomorrow, enjoy better tasting Roma wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma, the greatest name in wine.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Glenn Ford as Speed Evans, with Kathy Lewis as Sylvia Ganlon in End of the Road, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
After the gunplay, I thought it would be easy. But when I tried to get her down to the car, she clawed like a wildcat, and I had to clip her again. It was a battle all the way across town till we got to barreling along Highway 99. She knew she'd break her neck if she tried to jump. And all of a sudden, she just went to sleep. I looked over at her sleeping there in the corner, rolled up like a kitten and as innocent as a baby. And I knew I was for it, if it killed me. And I'd just have to do the best I could. We'd passed Bakersfield, and I was headed up over the Tehachapi Mountains before she woke up. It was morning.
Oh. Hello, darling.
Feeling any better, baby?
Oh, yes. I had such a wonderful dream. I was a little girl again. And I was with my father, and he was rowing across a lake. And then...
Then what?
Speed. I lied to you about Ganlon. He didn't kill my father. I was wicked to say that, wasn't I?
Oh, you're just a little mixed up, that's all.
Speed?
Yeah?
Where are we going?
We're going to your hometown, baby, Phoebe, Arizona.
Oh.
You like the idea?
I suppose so. Why?
Look, baby, I'm no psychiatrist, but something happened back there when you were a kid. Something to do with the death of your father. It's had you on the merry-go-round ever since. So much so that about 9 hours ago, you tried to kill a man.
I said I was sorry about that, Speed.
Sure. But if you and I are going to make a go of this, I think we ought to do something more besides just saying we feel sorry, don't you?
You make it sound as though you thought I was going to go around killing people for the rest of my life.
All I say is that you're not going to be very happy until we know the facts about this thing, whatever they are. Until you've faced the facts, and from then on, we can forget it.
Speed?
Yeah.
I'm terribly hungry, aren't you?
Yeah, I could do with a little something.
Look, there's a place up ahead.
Oh, okay.
Bus just pulled in.
Yeah, it's one of the regular stops here.
Speed. Kiss me.
How's that?
Oh, that's wonderful.
All right, let's go, huh?
My, what a lot of people.
Those big buses hold a lot of people, baby.
Help! Help! I'm being kidnapped!
Come here.
Help me! Help!
It's all right. It's all right. She's my wife.
Hey, what's going on here?
I'm not. I've never seen him before in my life. I'm being kidnapped. Oh, he hit her!
Hey, that's no way to treat even your wife, mister.
All right, if you must know, she's crazy. She's
What?
my wife, but she's hopelessly insane.
But I don't kiss.
About 5 minutes later, she snapped out of it. You'd think nothing at all had happened, but I wasn't taking any more chances. I took to the side roads wherever I could, figuring the cops would be on my tail any minute, so we didn't cross the state line until way after midnight. Well, it was next morning when I kicked it out of gear at Phoebe, Arizona. There was only one hotel. We registered, adjoining rooms. All the time, I was watching her like a hawk. I didn't need to. Now that we were there, she seemed glad. Now, we'd been in our rooms about 5 minutes when the phone rang. Hello.
Mr. Evans?
Yeah?
Just a moment, Mr. Evans.
Mr. Evans, this is San Francisco, operator 23. We've got a long-distance call for you.
San Francisco?
Yes, sir. We've been trying to reach you all night. Shall I put your party on now?
All right, go ahead.
Hello, Evans?
Yeah?
This is Ganlon.
You must have a private eye on your payroll, too, huh?
I know you're an intelligent man, Evans, whatever else you may be. I knew where you'd go. But I want to tell you something. You're getting in deep water. Deeper than you know anything about.
And you hope I'll drown, huh? All right, maybe I will. But I'm still wading in.
I'm coming down there, Evans. In the meantime, keep quiet and keep her quiet. And keep your nose out of things.
What's that supposed to be? A threat?
I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you. For your own good.
It was Ganlon, wasn't it?
What? Yeah, he called to give us his blessing.
He's coming down, too, isn't he?
Maybe.
I'm glad, Speed. You just can't know how glad I am.
Yeah, that's going to be real cozy, just the three of us.
You've been cruel to me, Speed.
Well, who, me?
I've forgiven you, though. You know that.
Why, sure, baby.
I just didn't understand at first, but I understand now. Why you brought me here, I mean. You're going to find proof that Gan killed my father.
I'll work on that.
I can tell you exactly how it happened.
You said yesterday you were lying.
Oh, don't try to confuse me, Speed. Do you want to know or don't you?
Sure. Let's have it.
Well, my father and Gan were tunneling a new shaft in the side of the mountain. They were working alone that day. They'd set a dynamite charge inside the shaft with wires out to the ignition box. The box worked with a plunger, but when my father pushed it down, the dynamite didn't go off. He went back inside to find the trouble. While he was in there, Gan pushed down the plunger again. My father was blown to bits.
Just like that, huh?
Don't you believe me?
Like I say, I'll work on it.
They'll hang him, won't they?
Hang who?
Ganlon, they'll hang him when you find proof.
If he's guilty, they'll hang him.
You'll prove it, darling. Promise me you will, so they can arrest him when he arrives. You'll do it for your baby, I know. Kiss me, darling.
How's that?
Oh, that's wonderful. That's all I care about. That and seeing Ganlon hanged.
She went to sleep then, just as peaceful as you please, dreaming of Ganlon with a rope around his neck. Well, I found the thing they call the City Hall. Asked to see records on her old man's death. Well, they hemmed and hawed some, and then it came out that half the town was burned down a few years back. The records went up with it. They finally suggested I see an old-timer named Konski who had been her father's mine foreman at one time or another. Well, I did. He was already waiting for me. He seemed to know what I was after. He was all primed with the answers.
Sure I know Sylvia. Sweetest, prettiest little kid I ever see all my life.
And of course you knew her father.
Sure I knew.
I guess Sylvia must have been pretty fond of him.
Sure she was crazy about him.
Well, wasn't she?
Maybe. But if she was the only one in this town wasn't glad to see him die.
Look, you don't have to be cagey with me. I'm trying to help Sylvia.
All right. You know what is the best thing you can do?
What?
Get out of town before you make plenty trouble.
That was that. Well, the next stop was the office of the weekly paper, owned, published, printed, and peddled by one guy, a guy named McLean. He seemed to know all about my business, too. Had the files all laid out for me.
Why don't you lay off it, Evans? It's 10 years old and dead and buried.
Mind if I look at your files?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. You can see what it says. Mine disaster, premature explosion, accidental death.
Any chance it wasn't accidental?
What do you mean?
Any chance that Ganlon did it?
Not a chance.
You seem pretty sure.
Did you ever notice that gippy leg of his?
Yeah?
Well, that's how he got it. He was in the mine when it happened.
I was getting no place fast, only a suspicion and not a very comfortable one. And I hadn't the faintest idea where to go from here. And I thought of the doctor. There had to be a doc to sign a death certificate. Well, I found out who he was, dug him up, and he looked like the worst bet of the bunch. He was half wacky from the effects of age and a misspent life, nothing left but his dignity, and a collection of photographs that he insisted on talking about until I wanted to smack him.
Yes, it was my hobby before my eyes went back on me, but those you see on the wall are only a few. Here. Take a look at some of these.
Who are all you people covering up for, Doc?
Huh? I beg your pardon?
You heard me.
Young man, you realize that what you've just said constitutes a most serious slur on my professional reputation.
Oh, nuts. Look, I'm trying to help a girl that I'm in love with. Can't anybody understand that?
Take this one, for instance, and notice the contrasts, the light and shadow.
Yeah.
I don't suppose you understand the meaning of the term traumatic experience, huh? No, I thought not. The psychic structure of the personality is a very delicate mechanism. For instance, in the case of Sylvia. Now, take her to a competent man in the field, Mr. Evans. I no longer handle such cases.
That's not what I came to you for, and you know it.
I'm afraid I can't help you. Retired some time ago, you see. Now, look at some of these. They're older, of course, but there's still some very good ones among them.
Look, Doc, I don't want to look at pictures. All I want...
Oh, we found one you like, eh? I knew you did.
It has a date on it, July 14th, 1935. That mean anything to you?
Is that the stalagmite incrustation? If so, it's...
I don't know. It's just some rocks in a hole in the mountain to me, but that date is the date that Sylvia's father was killed.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
No, you don't. No. I'm afraid you're torn it, Doc.
Give it back to me, I say.
Yeah, but the part I got is still enough to show who killed him. I started back for the hotel, but I didn't feel so good. I didn't feel good at all. I asked at the desk if Ganlon had arrived, but he hadn't, so I went on up to Sylvia's room. She was sitting at the dressing table making up her face. She looked up at me in the mirror.
You know. I can tell by your eyes you know.
Yes, baby, I know.
And they'll hang him, won't they?
Ganlon? No, baby, he's in the clear.
But he isn't. He can't be. He murdered my father. I know he did. You're lying to me, Speed.
Look, take it easy, baby. It's going to be all right. Just let's get it over with, and we can forget it. Huh?
Get what over with? You're acting so funny, darling.
Take a look at this picture.
Huh? Oh, that's me, isn't it? When I was a little girl. I'm awfully far away, but I'd still know it's me. But this smoke.
Don't you remember?
Please, Speed, my head's hurting. Don't.
Try to remember.
You're tormenting me. You're trying to hurt me.
That smoke is the explosion, isn't it?
I don't know.
You pushed the plunger.
I don't know.
Remember while your father was inside the shaft. Remember?
I don't... Yes! Yes, I killed him.
All right, baby. That's all there is to it. You can forget.
I hated him. It's all I lived for. It's all I ever dreamed of. See his face bloody and battered. See his body mangled and dirty. I hated him. I hate you. I hate all men. If I could kill every man in the world...
Where did you get that gun, baby?
Out of your overcoat.
You better put it down.
I tried to kill Ganlon because he knew. Now you know.
Put it down.
It's too late, Speed. Goodbye, darling.
Listen, it's all over now. You were only a kid. I know how he treated you. The whole town covered up for you. They're still covering.
Goodbye.
When the door flew open, I ducked, and then the shots came. When I looked around, Gannon was lying on the open door, the gun still in his hand. He walked right into it. Well, he must have got in one shot, though. That was enough. She was still breathing when I got to her, but that was about all.
It's all right now, isn't it, darling?
Sure, baby. Everything's gonna be all right.
Kiss me.
Yeah. How's that?
Oh, that's wonderful. But I wasn't so lucky this time, was I?
Not too lucky.
I didn't miss.
No, baby. You didn't miss. Well, anytime you want to buy an Excelsior 8, just come on in and see old Speed Evans. No, I won't tell you my troubles. Dames, that's my trouble. It's been dames as long as I can remember. It's too bad, though. We'd have probably had a couple of kids by now.
Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, Roma, America's favorite wines. This is Ken Niles returning to our Suspense microphone with the brilliant star of tonight's play, Glenn Ford. Glenn, you did a magnificent job. Believe me, I want a recording of your performance for my own personal library of suspense records.
Well, thanks, Ken. You're a record fan, too, huh? Well, Mrs. Ford and I can't resist a brisk disc.
A brisk disc?
Yeah, you know, a torrid wax, a hot platter.
Oh, now I get you. Say, speaking of platters, Glenn, isn't Mrs. F. likely to serve you a nice sizzling platter garnished with a thick, juicy steak some night soon?
Oh, she's better, Ken.
Well, good, because I have a little gift for you that'll make any steak taste better.
Oh, suspense me no further, Ken. What's the secret?
Your gift, Glenn, is a basket of Roma, California wines presented by Roma, America's greatest vintner. In that basket is a bottle of red, robust Roma Burgundy, the perfect taste companion for tender steaks, abrasive broiled chops, or any red meat. Better tasting Roma Burgundy brings out all the natural hidden flavors in hearty foods, adds pleasure to every bite.
Roma Burgundy, huh? Well, I'll remember that, Ken.
Remember, too, that all Roma wines taste better because Roma starts with choicest grapes, guides them unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection with skill and resources unmatched in America. Then Roma places this luscious grape treasure with Roma wines of years before to await selection from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. That's why more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine.
Well, I can't think of a better endorsement. Thank you, and good night.
Glenn Ford appeared through the courtesy of Columbia Pictures and is soon to be seen starring in the Columbia picture Framed. Tonight's suspense play was adapted by Irving Moore and Robert Richards from a story by Irving Moore. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Agnes Moorehead as star of Suspense.
Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Did you notice the gift baskets ended after Roma Wines ended their sponsorship and Autolite came along? I guess a gift basket of spark plugs was not quite as enticing a gift. Glenn Ford in Suspense, 78 years ago, February 6, 1947, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit our webpage to support the program. That's at classicradio.stream. You can find our links to Twitter and to Facebook there. We don't have other social media at the moment. Maybe we will eventually, but we'll see. But at classicradio.stream, you can share the shows from there. You can also find items we have for sale, and you can also buy me a copy if that helps you, if you would like to do that. That's at classicradio.stream. A quarter hour of weirdness with the strange Dr. Weird is next.
Two weeks, 14 days, 326 hours. Every second that your family could be exposed to radiation after a nuclear attack. Radiation that kills.
To survive, a fallout shelter is a necessity. Equipment and supplies are essential.
Now, Survive All Shelters, one of the nation's leading manufacturers of fallout shelters, offers a basic equipment kit with
a Conelrad high-powered radio, transistor operated for long battery life,
a complete, fully stocked first aid kit,
a heavy-duty fire extinguisher, emergency water containers, a chemical toilet for protection against contamination and disease,
extra-strength Saran and Rayon bunks,
a radiation meter, and individual dosimeters.
For protection every second of each hour of every day. See a Survive All Shelter now.
Yes, don't be the last one on your block to get a Survive All fallout shelter. We have interesting information about Survive All down in the links below, in the show notes. I hope you'll check it out because it's just interesting to see how they sold war through selling fallout shelters. I find it fascinating. I don't know about you. What I find fascinating is that Adam Hatt sponsored The Strange Dr. Weird. This episode of The Mutual Show goes back 80 years, February 6th, 1945, The Dark Wings of Death.
Adam Hatt presents The Strange Dr. Weird.
Good evening. Come in, won't you? Why, what's the matter? You seem a bit nervous. Perhaps it would help calm you if I told you a story that I just heard. A strange story about a raven as black as sin that could talk like a man. I call my story The Dark Wings of Death.
Before Dr. Weird takes you to his world of mystery, a brief look at the world of fashion. When the new Adam 5 was first designed, Adam's expert hatters spared no time nor expense to make sure that the Adam 5 would be smart, down to the very last detail. They got what they wanted, and so will you, for just $5. The new Adam 5 is now on display at the thousands of Adam Hatt stores and authorized dealers from coast to coast. Step into the one nearest you and ask to see an Adam 5. Notice the handsome style, the perfect fit, the quality all fur felt. Then, try it on. Yes, sir, you'll look like a new man in your Adam 5. Now, Dr. Weird.
And now for my story, The Dark Wings of Death. It begins in the small East Side apartment of Ned and Helen Kennedy, who are having a slight discussion.
Ned, I tell you, if your Uncle Simon won't lend you the money, you'll have to kill him and take it, do you hear?
But look, Helen, if we just wait a little longer, he's so old and feeble, he may die any day now.
We can't wait. That shortage in your accounts will be discovered by next week. We've talked this all over before. Why are you hesitating now? You're afraid?
No, it's not that. It's that pet raven of Uncle's. It makes me so uneasy.
His raven. So that's it. You're afraid of a bird.
Now, wait a minute, Helen. That raven isn't an ordinary bird. The way it watches me with those red eyes and the way it screeches whenever I'm in the room. Well, it almost acts as if it knew I was thinking of killing Uncle Simon.
All right, Ned, go to prison then.
No. I'll do it if I have to. But I'm going to try to borrow the money from him first.
You can try, but you won't get it. Now, you'd better get over to that horrible old tenement he lives in with his supper. After he's eaten it and fallen asleep, remember just how we planned everything. Turn on the gas heater unlighted, so it'll look as if it had been blown out and he died in his sleep.
A few minutes later, Ned Kennedy was entering a small, bitterly cold room on the top floor of an ancient tenement building that stood on the very banks of the East River, its windows looking directly down on the cold, gray water. In a bed against the wall, a white-haired old man lay, his face lighting up with malicious amusement as Ned entered. On the head of the bed perched a huge black raven, and as it saw Ned, it flapped its wings angrily.
Quiet, Lucifer. Come on in, Ned. You needn't be afraid of Lucifer.
I brought you some soup and sandwiches for your supper, Uncle Simon. I'll put them on the table here.
Not poisoned, are they, Ned? Not poisoned by that pretty little devil you married?
Uncle, for heaven's sake, don't be absurd. Here, eat your supper before the soup gets cold.
All right, Ned. Now then, what's on your mind? You want something, I can tell. Out with it, Ned.
All right, Uncle Simon. I'm $4,000 short in my accounts at the gas company.
Huh?
I've got to replace the money this week or I'll be caught.
And you want me to lend it to you, is that it?
Please, Uncle. You've got to. You wouldn't let your only living relative go to jail, would you?
Aye, of course I would. If you've stolen, you should pay the penalty.
Why, you miserable old skinflint.
No! Let go, you'll kick me. Lucifer!
No, get away from me! Get away from me! He's trying to get in my eyes!
That'll teach you to try tricks on me.
Get him away from me! He's trying to pick my eyes out!
Lucifer! Back to your perch.
Look at my hand. It's bleeding.
Serves you right. Next time I won't stop him. Lucifer will pick your eyes right out of your head. And your soul right out of your body, Ned. Yes. Carry them away to Beelzebub, his master, too.
Oh, for heaven's sake, stop that.
Lucifer isn't any ordinary bird. He's a winged demon, straight from Inferno. Yes, and as sure as ever you harm me, Lucifer will snatch you up and fly off to the pit with you.
I said stop it!
Yeah, ask Mrs. O'Rourke, the superintendent's wife downstairs. Many's the night she's seen Lucifer flying away from the window in the darkness, his eyes gleaming with red fire, and his claws glowing with phosphorus, off to pay a visit to the devil, his master.
Oh, that's just nonsense. Now, if you've finished, I'll take the dishes away. You're sure you won't lend me the money then, Uncle Simon?
No, I won't. $10,000 hidden in the wall here beside my bed, as you know. But you shan't have that till I die.
I tell you, there's no other way. If your uncle won't lend you the money, you have to kill him and take it, do you hear?
Good night, Ned. I'm going to sleep now. After they put you in jail, Lucifer and I'll come and visit you. Now and then.
The old skinflint. He's asleep.
When he's asleep, turn on the gas heater, unlight it, so it'll look as if it had been blown out. In an hour, he'll be dead, and it'll look like an accident.
Yes, I have to do it. I have to do it.
Before you take a rest, Dr. Weird, would you tell me the time?
You're not leaving already, are you?
Oh, not yet, Doctor. I just wanted to remind the man of our audience that whatever the hour, they're usually meeting people whose opinions they just naturally value. Calling on business associates, joining a friend at lunch, going to the theater. Those are the times you want to look your best. And nothing counts more in making a good impression than your personal appearance. Naturally, clothes are important. But what's equally important is that every article fit into the picture. That's where Adam hats come in, because the style of an Adam is just right. Made of fine quality all-fur felt in the smartest shades, Adam hats are the last word in fashion. Carefully designed down to the smallest detail and long-wearing as well. And Adam is a wise investment in your personal appearance. So if you want to look your best, top your clothes picture with a new Adam hat. Now, Dr. Weird.
And now to continue my story, The Dark Wings of Death. After leaving the gas heater turned on full and unlighted in his uncle's tiny room, Ned has just reached home.
Helen! Helen!
Ned! You did it, didn't you? I can tell by your face.
Yes, I had to. He absolutely refused to lend me the money.
I told you he would. You got it anyway, didn't you? Where is it? Let me see it.
Why, I haven't got it yet.
You haven't? Why not?
Well, I couldn't get it until he was dead, of course. Till the room was filled with gas and he's breathed it for a while.
Oh, yes, of course. But I said it'd be easy, and it was, wasn't it?
Yes. Except for the raven. It attacked me. Look at my hand.
It's just a scratch. Don't tell me you're still worried about that bird.
Well, suppose it attacks me again when I go back for the money.
Forget it. The raven will be dead, too. The gas will kill it.
Oh, yes, of course.
In any case, I'm going back with you. I'll wait until midnight. He's sure to be dead by then. Oh, and another thing. The room will be full of gas. We'll have to wear masks of some kind.
Masked? Why, I hadn't thought of that.
Well, I did. As auditor, you have keys to the gas company office. We'll go down now and get 2 of the masks the workmen use when they're repairing leaks in the mains. In the morning, you can replace them and no one will ever know.
It was just after midnight when Ned stood once more in the cold, dark hall outside his uncle's door, Helen at his side.
I don't hear any sound inside.
Of course not. They're both dead. Come on, put on your mask and let's get it over with.
All right. Here, now, this strap goes over your head. Now, breathe through your mouth. You can talk, too. These masks are the latest type.
Talk? Yes, I can, can't I?
There. Now, we're all set. Have your flashlight on.
Mm-hmm.
We mustn't turn on any lights. The least spark would explode the gas and blow us sky high.
I know. Come on.
He's dead.
Of course he is.
Where's the raven?
Oh, what does it matter? Come on. Help me move the bed. You take that in.
All right. Take it easy now. He looks as if he were asleep.
Oh, forget him. Where did he keep the money?
There's a loose board. Listen, the raven. It's still alive.
It can't be. I don't hear it.
There, it's perched on that chair. Flapping its wings. Oh, get away from me. Get away.
Ned, get hold of yourself. There's nothing there. Nothing, I tell you.
There is. It attacked me. Look out. Here he comes again. Trying to get at my eyes. Keep it away. Keep it away.
Ned, stand still. You've backed us right up against the window. I tell you, there's nothing there. It's just your imagination.
It's coming at my eyes again. I'll stop it. I'll stop it.
Ned, that gun, where'd you get it?
I brought it with me in case of an emergency. I'll stop that raven.
Oh, don't use that gun, you fool. This room is full of gas. The shot would make it explode and kill us both.
Look out. It's coming at me again. Don't.
A short time later, Mrs. O'Rourke, wife of the superintendent, was telling the police a strange story.
Just at midnight it was, officer. And I'm standing at me window when up above there's an explosion, fair to wake the dead. And outside me window I see a great flash of light. And what else do you suppose?
You've already told us, Mrs. O'Rourke. You saw a man and a woman blown clear out through the window and into the river down there.
Blown out nothing. They was flying through the air, holding on to each other. And that raven had his claws in the man's hair and was flying away with them, his eyes blazing fire as he took them off to the devil, his master.
Now, Mrs. O'Rourke, you're letting your imagination run away with you.
I know what I saw.
But you can't have seen that, because we found the raven dead on the floor beside the old man's bed. The gas had killed the 2 of them, both together.
Strange about Ned and Helen, wasn't it? Their bodies were never recovered from the river. It was almost as if they really had been carried off to someplace not on this earth. But since Lucifer the Raven was found dead beside his master's bed, what do you suppose it was that flew at Ned in the darkness? Birds never have ghosts. Or do they? Oh, you'll have to go. And perhaps you'll drop in again soon. Just look for the house on the other side of the cemetery. The house of Dr. Weird.
While Dr. Weird prepares his statement of next week's thriller, I'd like to read a brief statement from the makers of Adam Hats, who bring you this program. Quote, "Our purpose is to offer hats of the finest style, made of the finest material, and executed with the finest workmanship. We want you to know that your Adam hat is a quality hat. At the same time, we want your purse to know that Adam offers a great value. So we present our smart line of Adam hats at prices which we honestly believe give you the most for your money. Millions of men agree with us, and we're sure you will too. Step into any of the thousands of Adam hat stores and authorized dealers all over the nation, and our hatters will be glad to show you our latest line of fine-looking Adam hats. Priced from $3.45 to $10, unquote. Now, Dr. Weird.
I hope you'll drop in again next week. I want to tell you a story I call The Secret Room. It's a story about two escaped Nazi prisoners who were quite sure they were smarter than But the rest of the story will have to wait until your next visit. Good night.
Join us again next week at this same time for another visit with the strange Dr. Weird. The Strange Dr. Weird, directed by Jock McGregor, is presented by the makers of Adam hats, the hats that are always tops in quality. Dick Willard speaking. This is Mutual.
From 80 years ago, February 6, 1945, The Strange Dr. Weird here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Up next, Chandu, the Magician.
Trained people are needed to meet disasters. To fill this need, the United States Office of Civil Defense, in cooperation with the United States Office of Education and local school systems, is offering a 12-hour course called Personal and Family Survival. The course includes discussions on the effects of radioactive fallout, how to plan for and live in fallout shelters, and what to do after a nuclear attack. To learn more about personal and family survival, consult your local civil defense director.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we're going to go back 92 years, February 6, 1933, for an episode of the serial Chandu, the Magician.
Under pretense of assuring the safety of Bob and Betty, Dmitri takes them from the villa by motorboat. A storm arises, and when the engine breaks down, the waves hurl them toward Dead Man's Shoal. Chandu, the Magician.
Bob, does he mean we're all going to be drowned? Does he?
Sure he does. He means there's curtains for all of us. I don't know why he let us come out here in a motorboat that nobody knew how to run.
Well, he must have run the boat before.
Well, he can't do anything about it now. I'm not just going to stand here and see us all get smashed to pieces on those rocks without doing something about it. I'm going below and see if I can start the engine.
It is quite useless now.
Just the same, I'm going to try it.
Oh, Dmitri, you can see black, jagged rocks under the water. Oh, look at the waves. Oh, Can't you do anything?
No, Betty Lou.
But can't Colonel Revere or Ismail...
You do not wish to die, Betty Lou, and it is not strange to me.
Stop, Delange.
This is the end of our plan, Dimitri.
It is the end for you and Ismail, Colonel Rafael, but not for Dimitri.
Dimitri! What do you mean? Oh, you sound awful.
Let me! I got her started! We have drifted into the channel. Now, Bob can only... What's the matter with you, Allie? You ought to know the channel if there's one here.
I will take the wheel.
Okay, you'd better hurry.
Come on in, Betty. Come in, Madame Delange. Boy, isn't it great to get back here to the hotel all in one piece?
Oh, I was scared to death out there in that boat. I kept thinking Mother and Father and Uncle Frank would never know what had happened to us.
Well, don't think about it now. We're back here and we're all right. Sit down here, Madame Delange.
You didn't look a bit scared out there, Madame Delange. Do you really mean you'd be glad to die?
What do you mean, be glad to die?
Why, perhaps I did not quite mean what I said, Betty Lou.
Well, I should think not. Gee.
If you will excuse me, I think I will go to my room.
Sure, that's all right. Here, take my arm.
No, Bobby. I shall be quite recovered in one moment. Permit me to go alone.
Why, no, I'll go with you to your room.
Or why don't you go into my room and lie down for a few minutes?
No, I must be alone.
Well, we don't want to bother you.
Mais oui, I shall be myself again quite soon. I will come back to your sitting room in an hour, if I may.
Yes, you must. Or if there's anything we can do for you, be sure to let us know, won't you?
Merci, ma chère.
What do you suppose is the matter with her? Didn't she act funny?
I wish she'd let one of us go with her. But it's only a little way to her room. She probably thought... Listen, what's that?
Somebody in the hall.
Oh, maybe something's happened to her. Maybe she's fainted or something. Quick, Bob, open the door.
It's Mother and Father. Hello, Mother. Why, where's...
Mother! Oh, I'm so glad to see you. Hello, Father. Did you
And
see...
we're glad to see you. Where in the world have you been? We were beginning to be alarmed about you.
Oh, we were all right, Mother. We were wondering what had happened to you.
We arrived this morning and found your message saying that you'd gone out for a drive with Madame Delange. But the clerk said that was yesterday and you hadn't come back.
Your mother's been very anxious about you. You shouldn't have stayed away all night, Bob. Where were you?
Well, I suppose we shouldn't. Gee, we did have a lot of excitement, though. Just wait till you hear.
What sort of excitement?
Now, Mother, please don't look as if you thought you couldn't trust us out of your sight again. We couldn't help it. Come on, sit down here and we'll tell you all about it.
Young, we want to hear what you've been doing, too. How'd you get along, Father?
I had a very interesting time, of course, Bob. I'm afraid your mother was lonely.
Oh, Robert, I didn't mind, except for leaving the children here.
Several times we thought we'd come back, but Monsieur Le Harrival and I found the ruins so interesting that we postponed our return.
Did they tell you about the uprising of the tribesmen?
Yes, that's what finally brought us back.
Have any trouble?
Oh, no, but there seemed to be a great deal of unrest in the air. We thought you might not be safe here. Have you heard anything from Uncle Frank?
Well, no. You know, it was funny, but the very day you left, he came and said he had to go away into the hills, and we haven't heard a word from him since.
Did he say why he was going?
Oh, you know how he is, Father. He never likes us to ask him questions. Anyway, he was in an awful hurry, wasn't he, Bob?
I'll say. Well, he asked me to come up and help him get some things together, and he hardly said a word to me. He just looked like he was made out of stone or something.
Oh, I hope he's not in danger.
I wish he'd taken me with him. I mean, I would have wished it if Betty hadn't been here alone. Gee, it must be keen to go way off up there in the hills where you're the only white man among all those natives and try to find out things and everything. Don't you think so, Mother?
No, I'm afraid I don't, son.
Let us tell you what happened to us.
Of course.
Well, we've had a lot of fun. Madame Delange met a friend here, and he had a great big car, and we've been driving all over the place.
That was nice.
Yeah, he's a native, but he's somebody pretty high-powered, I guess. He's the son of a sheik or something. Wonder who that is.
Dippy, look who's here. It's Uncle Frank.
Hello, Frank.
Hello, all of you.
We were just wondering what had happened to you, Frank.
There's a lot of fighting in the hills, and I hoped you and Robert would come back before you got mixed up in it.
As a matter of fact, we just returned this morning. Children say you've been gone as long as we have.
Yes. This uprising is more serious than anyone realized at first.
Did you get into it yourself, Uncle Frank?
More or less. Look here. I have some news for you.
What kind of news, Uncle Frank?
There's been some fighting in a town by the name of Rod. The French legionnaires were there, of course, and several of them were wounded. And among the wounded, I saw Nicholas.
Nicholas? Of Montebania?
Yes.
What's he doing in the Legion?
I haven't been able to find out yet. They were sending him to a hospital here in Algiers.
Do you suppose his father knows he's down here?
I don't know. But it's just the sort of thing Nicholas might do. Enlist in the Foreign Legion on an impulse, I mean.
Oh, I don't think he would, Uncle Frank. When we were in Montebania, he told me he wasn't going to do things like that anymore. He said he was going to learn a lot about the country and kind of settle down. Well, I mean...
Yeah, we know. Go on, Uncle Frank. Can we see him? I mean, to talk to? We really did see him marching along the road.
Where?
Oh, one day we were out for a ride and a bunch of Legionnaires came along and we saw Nick. But we didn't have time to speak to him.
I see. We can go to visit him in the hospital tomorrow.
Is he badly hurt?
I don't know. I have permission for a visit to him, though, so it can't be too serious.
Oh, poor Nicky.
From all I hear, he more or less covered himself with glory during the fighting. Has there been any disturbance here, Bob?
Well, no, not right here. But we were out driving and we stopped at a kind of a little village cafe for tea, and all of a sudden a gang of those natives came in and said they were going to capture us and make us slaves and everything.
Bobby.
Well, Mother, it's all over now.
I suppose you have no idea who the men were, Bob. You didn't happen to hear the names of any of the leaders?
Well, yes, I did. One of them was called Hamid, and there was another one called Mohammed.
What sort of man is Mohammed?
Oh, he's a big native. You know how they all look, and he had a great big scar right across his face.
Running from his temple across his nose?
Yeah.
A wide white scar, Bob?
Why, yes. Gee, Uncle Frank, do you know him?
He's one of the tribe of Ben Yusuf.
Gosh.
What happened after that?
All of a sudden, they kind of got scared or something, and they all just rode away. He made them.
Then where have you been all this time? Why didn't you come back here to Algiers?
Well, we were afraid to. So we went on to a villa that belongs to this friend of Madame Delange we were telling you about.
And who is this friend of Madame Delange?
Oh, a fellow called Ismail.
What sort of fellow is he?
Well, I know Bob will laugh, but he looks kind of like Abdallah, only older and...
Yeah, and kind of hard. He does look something like Abdallah.
I see.
Now, don't say you know him, too.
No, I don't know him yet. I'd like to see him, though.
Frank, you don't mean...
I mean nothing yet, Dot. Let him tell the rest of it.
Well, we went to the villa, and then some French army officers came and told us we'd better hurry up and get away from there, because these tribesmen were all over the roads.
And how did you get away?
Well, this friend,
He means Ismail had a motorboat, and we started back here, and, there was a storm, and we finally got back here, and, here we are.
Oh, I wish we'd come back sooner.
Why, Mother? Why?
I hardly know. I have a strange feeling that something's going on here we don't understand.
I think the best thing you can do is to leave on the first boat. There's a steamer for Marseille on Tuesday.
Do you want us to leave Algiers, Uncle Frank?
Yes, I do. This situation with the tribesmen is very serious, and I want to get you out of here as soon as possible.
Well, what are you going to do, Frank?
I'll have to stay here for the present at least.
But what can you do?
There'll be plenty for me to do. There's no question about that. You see, the authorities are sure there's something bigger in all this than just an uprising of a few tribesmen.
Just what do you mean by that, Frank?
I mean the Brothers of Jeopardy. Or perhaps even
But I
the
thought
Bonzes.
the Brothers of Jeopardy had given up long ago.
No, I'm sure they haven't. The French have some very good men at work, though. And between us, we'll manage to catch the ringleaders in some way.
Well, if we're leaving tomorrow, I'd better go down to the steamship company and see about our passage.
Are we really going home so soon, Uncle Frank?
Don't you think we can be ready by that time?
Oh, it's not that, Uncle Frank, but I... Oh, you see, it's kind of sudden, that's all.
Thinking of Nicholas, Betty? Don't worry. You'll have time to see him before you go.
Oh, sure.
No, I don't mean that, Uncle Frank.
Betty, dear, what's the matter?
Why, nothing, Mother. Nothing. I kind of thought we were going to stay here a long time.
Frank, you don't think that chap Dmitri could have anything to do with this trouble, do you?
What made you think of him, Robert?
Oh, I don't know, but that plot in Montebania was certainly Dmitri's work. He's locked up somewhere, isn't he?
He was, but he managed to escape. The French authorities are looking for him now.
Frank, you don't think Dmitri could be here? Oh, how horrible.
Yes, Dot, I do. And that's one reason why I'm so anxious to get you all away from here.
Bob, shall we tell him?
Keep still. No, we can't.
Robert, if this is true, we mustn't let anything keep us from catching that boat. If you'd seen him in Montebania as we did, Frank knows...
Yes. I thought we'd seen the last of him when... Keep still, all of you. There's someone standing behind that curtain.
Oh, Frank, be careful. Frank, look out for that knife!
Wait, don't, Uncle Frank. It's Ismail.
92 years ago, February 6, 1933, Shandu the Magician. Up next, the showdown between Lita the Leopard Woman and Superman.
Radio has always been a source of quick, accurate information during a disaster. When you hear the alert signal, tune to these Conelrad frequencies, 640 and 1240 on your regular radio. During a national emergency, all power lines may be temporarily cut off. To make sure you receive the necessary survival information, keep a battery-operated radio in your family shelter. For accurate information and instructions during enemy attack, it's 640 and 1240 on your standard radio.
Now we wrap up this edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on this Thursday with the conclusion of the Lita the Leopard Woman stories of Superman, going back 83 years to February 6th, 1942.
Presenting the transcription feature, Superman.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from the planet Krypton, who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman who can leap tall buildings at a single bound, race a speeding bullet to its target, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice. But before we join Superman, listen.
And now to our story. When a violent explosion set fire to the waterfront hideout of the Leopard Woman spy ring, Clark Kent and Major Campbell, chief of the Secret Service, were certain the woman and her Japanese henchmen had perished. But unknown to them, the cunning female spy, together with her radio operator, a man named Brower, made good her escape by jumping off the roof into the water a moment before the explosion leveled the house. As our story continues today, we find them speeding along the road in a stolen car. Brower is at the wheel. From a news broadcast heard on the car radio, they've just learned that the police of 8 states are now on their trail. Listen.
Well, what do we do now? You heard what the radio said. The roads are under guard.
We'll get off the roads.
What do you mean?
There's a private seaplane base up ahead. We've got to get one of the ships and head out to sea.
What good will that do us? None of those private planes carry enough gas to get us far.
We won't have far to go. Not if we can contact one of our submarines off the coast. It's our only chance now that they know or even suspect that we escaped. There's the base. I'll turn in.
There's only one plane moored.
One is enough. Come on.
I don't see anyone around.
There's a watchman in that shack. He's asleep. We shouldn't have any trouble.
Have you a revolver?
Yes, but it got soaking wet. I can use the butt. Now, quiet. You stay out here. I'll sneak in and take care of him. He's dead to the world. This should be a cinch. Watch the road in case anyone stops or drives in.
I will, but hurry.
Okay. He won't wake up for a while. Yeah, he won't wake up.
What about keys?
We won't need them. I'll cross the ignition wires. Come on, we've got to row out to the plane. Wait a minute. Get down. There's a car coming. All right, come on.
There's a rowboat tied to the dock.
Any oars in it?
Yes.
We're running in luck. Hop in. Can you make it?
I think so.
All right?
Yes.
Sit in the back seat. I'll cast off. Well, so far, so good.
Are you sure you can get the plane started?
Positive. Won't be the first time I've crossed wires. Say, you can fly a seaplane, can't you?
Why not? No different from any other plane, except for pontoons. Suppose it has no radio.
That's the chance we're taking.
Easy, easy. You're right on top of it. Pull in your right.
I'll grab the mooring line.
I've got it.
Now, can you get aboard? I'll keep the boat close. Don't pull in.
I won't.
Open the cabin door. I'll climb inside. I'll follow you.
What about the boat?
That's the least of our worries. Here I come. Okay, close the door.
If you can get her started, we're all right.
Don't worry about that. Now see if there's a flashlight in the tool compartment.
Yes.
Good. Shine it under the dashboard.
There's a radio, isn't there?
Yes. Yes, sending and receiving. Hold the light steady. Step on the starter. That's enough.
Any trouble?
No, I'll get it.
Brower.
What?
A car just pulled in off the road. 2 men are walking toward the shack.
Step on the starter. There she goes.
The men are running down to the dock.
Get set to give her the gun. I'll cut the mooring line. Okay, let her go.
Rising from the water like some monstrous seabird, the plane roars into the darkness, headed for the open ocean. Meanwhile, back at the Metropolis office of the Secret Service, Clark Kent and Major Campbell await word of the leopard woman's arrest.
Kent, that woman is amazing. I can't bring myself to believe that she dove off that roof. It just doesn't seem possible.
And by this time, you should realize that anything's possible. She took a desperate chance.
Well, what good did it do her? She's bound to be picked up. Every road leading out of Metropolis is covered. They can't get through.
I hope you're right, Major. She's led us quite a chase. I'd like nothing better than to see her behind bars.
If you recall, she was behind bars once. Your brilliant little plan let her out.
Now, let's not bring that up.
Excuse me. Major Campbell speaking. Oh, yes? What? Oh, hold on a minute. Kent, jot this down as I give it to you.
All right.
Go ahead. Midtown Harbor Seaplane Base, Amphibian NX-312. Yes, I've got that. What time was this? 5:30 a.m. Any description? I see. All right. Thanks a lot. Yes, I'll check on it. This looks bad, Kent.
What's it all about?
A man and a woman slugged the watchman at the Midtown Harbor Seaplane Base at 5:30 this morning and stole an amphibian moored offshore.
Stole it? A man and a woman?
Yes. Does that mean anything to you?
Might mean plenty. Who was that call?
McCary at the state police barracks. Said 2 of his men drove in just as the plane took off. Found the watchman out cold. Kent, I don't like it. If that woman has slipped through again...
Let's not jump to conclusions, Major. In the first place, what good would a seaplane do the leopard woman?
I don't know, but I'm willing to bet she's behind this. We know she and Brower escaped the explosion, stole a car on the state highway, and were headed out of the city.
Wait a minute. The firemen found a shortwave sending set in the wreckage of that building, didn't they?
Oh, yes. What's that got to do with it?
Well, it proved our original suspicion was correct. That the leopard woman was communicating with enemy submarines offshore.
I still don't get the point.
That seaplane. Was it radio equipped?
McCary didn't say. What are you driving at, Kent?
Simply this. If the leopard woman and Brower did steal that plane,
They're probably planning to contact a foreign sub, get aboard, and make a perfect getaway.
Well, what are we going to do about it? Sit here and stare at one another?
No, we've got to get to a shortwave listening post, a Coast Guard station. Maybe we can pick up the plane signal. Come on.
Wait a minute. O'Hara, meet me downstairs with a car. Yes, right away.
Come on, Major.
I'm coming. Well, anything doing, Kent?
No, not yet.
You never told me you could handle shortwave apparatus. There's not much you can't do.
That's laying it on a little thick, Major. Here, wait. Something's coming through. I'll switch it to the speaker. Listen.
Must have position. Urgent. Must have position. Urgent. Check. Agent 1-4. Code word. Anschluss. Come in.
What's that? Oh, we're calling from the plane. Listen.
Position 65 miles southwest harbor.
Is that the submarine? Yes, our hunch was right.
Where are you going, Kent?
I've got an idea. Call the Navy Yard and give them the location of that sub. I'll be back.
Racing down the hall, Kent darts into a vacant office, closes the door behind him. In a moment, his street clothes give way to the blue costume and brilliant red cape of Superman. Stepping to the window, he raises it.
65 miles southwest. You're in for a surprise, Leopard Woman. A very unpleasant surprise. Up, and away!
I must compliment you, Brower. Everything worked out to perfection.
It was better than being blown up?
Yes, far better. We should be sighting the U-21 soon. Look for a periscope. Fortunately, the sea is calm. We should have no trouble landing. Before we set the plane adrift or sink it, I should like to send a final message to our friend, Mr. Kent. It would be amusing to...
What's the matter?
I don't know. Something's wrong. The controls don't respond. We're banking.
No, it can't be.
Look! Hey, at the window.
I saw it. It's gone now. What's happening?
We're heading back toward land. Brower!
Cut the motor.
We're still moving. Faster than before. What's that wind?
I can't believe it. It's insane.
Brower, something is pulling us. Brower! Brower!
I don't know how you accomplished it, Kent. But if anyone ever needs the services of a Superman, I'll send him to you.
It's nice of you to say that, Major, but...
I know. It was nothing. Nothing except that a stolen plane, piloted by one of the most dangerous foreign spies in the world, suddenly comes down on the beach in a perfect three-point landing, and when the Coast Guard men haul Brower and the Leopard Woman out, they're so frightened they can't talk. That's nothing. Well, maybe someday you'll be able to tell me how it was done.
Perhaps. But in the meantime, I have a story to get out.
Well, then I'll leave you. Oh, by the way, how's that youngster, the one who opened up all this spy business?
Jimmy Olsen? Oh, he's fine. Mr. White, the editor, sent him to a Dude Ranch after he got out of the hospital. He's there now.
Well, give him my regards if you see him.
Sure thing. Bye.
Bye, Kent.
Now, to get to that story. Oh, now what? Hello. Yes, this is Clark Kent. Where? Rocky Point. Yes, I'll accept the call. Rocky Point, that's where Jimmy is. And what he wants. Yes? Yes, hello, Jimmy. How are you? What? I can't hear you, Jim. Trouble? What kind of trouble? Were you in the accident? What? Did you say ghost car? Ghost? Now take it easy, Jimmy, and tell... Hello? Jimmy! Hello! Operator.
Well, it certainly looks like another baffling mystery is brewing. What could Jimmy have meant by a ghost car? And why was he suddenly cut off? Don't miss the next episode. It begins another thrilling adventure. Tune in and follow the story with the Superman.
Don't forget, tune in again for the next thrilling episode with Superman.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
And so comes our next mystery with Superman. But that'll have to wait until Sunday when we get back with another episode of Superman. This episode was from February 6, 1942, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. On Friday, People Are Funny, Bob Hope, The Great Gildersleeve, George and Gracie, and Claudia. And then on Saturday, Dragnet, Escape, The Chase, The Lives of Harry Lime and Claudia. Sunday, The FBI in Peace and War, Frontier Gentleman, John Daner there, Mr. Keen, Tracer of Lost Persons, Lights Out, and, as we said, that Ghost Car, the first episode in that series from Superman. Alrighty, thank you for being with us. Have yourself a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow for our Friday edition of Classic Radio Theater. I'm Wyatt Cox.